All right. Let's see who shows up. Ugh. Got a few things set up already, but see how many people we got. We got 8 people. Gonna need a few more than that, I think, before we get going. Let's see. I've just been reading and screwing around on guitar. I got a keyboard from a listener, so I got a very nice keyboard now. I got an MPK Mini, so I've just been fucking around with music stuff. Really, that's all I've really been doing. All right, cool. I think we got enough now. Ugh. Let me crack open my yerb. So I got a few things I was going to read first, but then otherwise it's Thanksgiving. We can really do whatever y'all want to do. I'll be chilling on here for a while. Other people are baking pies, and I don't got much to do today myself. So I figured I'd hold a long space because I'm up taking a leave of absence for some time. I want to get back to work on some things. I feel like the discourse is kind of leveled off. It's kind of boring again to me. I was kept here briefly by I thought things might be more interesting in this current Twitter timeline of Elon Musk, etc. But even the FTX shit, which is normally like my exact cup of tea, is like so boring to me now. It seems so obvious. Of course, there's some fucking weird, effective altruist, Discord eugenicist who looks the way he does with his neurotic little Harry Potter erotica Tumblr psycho girlfriend, and of course they've defrauded people in like myriad ways, and of course it's connected to Ukraine, and it's all so obvious. It's too easy. There's nothing even to say about it. It's all right there on the face of things, and that's more and more how I feel about all of this these days. Is that you don't even need to comment on it because it all speaks for itself. It's all right there on the surface. There's not even that much hiding it these days. It's pretty open. It's pretty out and about. Pride is here. Anyway, I'm gonna start with this Longfellow poem called "The Harvest Moon." It is the harvest moon on gilded vanes and roofs of villages, on woodland crests and their aerial neighborhoods of nests, deserted, on the curtained window panes of rooms where children sleep, on country lanes and harvest fields, its mystic splendor rests. Gone are the birds that were our summer guests, with the last sheaves returning the laboring wains. All things are symbols. The external shows of nature have their image in the mind as flowers and fruits and falling of the leaves. The songbirds leave us at the summer's close. Only the empty nests are left behind, and pipings of the quail among the sheaves. All things are symbols. And this one's a little bit longer, but this is a Whittier. I got a few American poetry collections as of late. I know we're gonna finish the Fairy Queen. We'll get to it, but we're gonna get back to it. I've just been really feeling since I got back to New England. I was rereading all of this Yankee literature that I read probably when I was much younger. Really, I was more obsessed with that stuff growing up, and I expanded my focus on things. But returning to them, it's it's like coming home again. Anyway, this one's called The Pumpkin by John Greenleaf Whittier. Oh, greenly and fair in the lands of the sun, the vines of the gourd and the rich melon run, and the rock and the tree and the cottage enfold with broad leaves all greenness and blossoms all gold, like that which o'er Nineveh's prophet once grew, while he waited to know that his warning was true, and longed for the storm cloud, and listened in vain for the rush of the whirlwind and red fire rain. On the banks of the Zenil, the dark Spanish maiden comes up with the fruit of the tangled vine laden, and the Creole of Cuba laughs out to behold, through orange leaves shining, the broad spheres of gold. Yet with dearer delight, from his home in the north, on the fields of his harvest, the Yankee looks forth, where crooknecks are coiling, and yellow fruit shines, and the sun of September melts down on his vines. Ah, on Thanksgiving Day, when from east and from west, from north and from south, come the pilgrims and guests, when the gray haired New Englander sees round his board the old broken links of affection restored. When the care wearied man seeks his mother once more, and the worn matron smiles where the girl smiled before, what moistens the lip and what brightens the eye, what calls back the past like the rich pumpkin pie. Oh, fruit loved of boyhood, the old days recalling, when wood grapes were purpling and brown nuts were falling, when wild, ugly faces we carved on its skin, glaring out through the dark with a candle within, when we laughed round the corn heap with hearts all in tune, our chair a broad pumpkin, our lantern the moon, telling tales of the fairy who traveled like steam in a pumpkin shell coach with two rats for her team. Then thanks for thy present, none sweeter or better, ere smoked from an oven or circled a platter. Fairer hands never wrought at a pastry more fine, brighter eyes never watched o'er baking than thine. And the prayer, which my mouth is too full to express, swells my heart that thy shadow may never be less, that the days of thy lot may be lengthened below, and the fame of thy worth like a pumpkin vine grow, and thy life be as sweet, and its last sunset sky golden tinted and fair as thy own pumpkin pie. I had a good this subject I think is the essence of New England poetry. I have a good tweet from way back in the day, so I can just recite myself at this point. Here we are. This is from October 13th of 2021. So last year I wrote this. This is the theme of these last two poems also, by the way. There's divine harmony in everything that exists, and I sometimes call them God's puns, such things as Christ being the stone that the Masons rejected, holding true from the court of the Pharisees to the courts of the world planners and global development hawks. It's also funny how the Catholic faith, through its transmutation into the Antichrist, came to reject Christ as the stone and have instead inserted Peter as the stone, thus literally believing the Bishop of Rome is the true Christ in material reality, and once again rejecting the true stone. Petros even really means the little stone, and we could think of Peter as having little stones when it came to upholding his faith in Christ under Inquisition. He rejected thrice. Tertullian, obviously correct here, Tertullian says, For for though you think that heaven is still shut up, remember that the Lord left the keys of it to Peter here, and through him to the church, which keys everyone will carry with him. If he has been questioned and made confession of faith, this is from the Book of Concord. Chrysostom says thus, upon this rock, not upon Peter, for he built his church not upon man, but upon the faith of Peter. But what was his faith? His faith being, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Back in the days of the Reformation, the Catholics were the ones who wouldn't read the church fathers. The Protestants were much more interested in the church fathers, which is why Lutheranism and Calvinism is best understood as types of Germanic orthodoxy. You have the keys to salvation when you profess faith in the living word of God and the resurrection of flesh and time to perfection in the last judgment. With this key alone can you unbind sin, forgive sin, and grant salvation. And anyone who professes faith can do this. Christianity is so beautiful, true, and good. And when you truly have faith, it is direct perception of revelation, not some hypothetical axiomatic system of rationalization. It is a perpetual unfolding of grace via metanoia. You immediately know more than you can account for. Divine concordance, divine harmony, the Leibnizian concept of design and creation, Haman's divine condescension, of the Logos, speaking through man to man. The eyes to see are hermeneutical unblinding to the already perfected transcendental reality of becoming eternity. And that is to say, I can read this autumn landscape as a parable of God's harvest of souls, and I feel like a jolly fat pumpkin whose destiny is to become pie in the sky. One more thing before I'll open it up to y'all, but this is another Hawthorne. I've been reading Hawthorne Tales, and this one's quite short, but it's called John Inglefield's Thanksgiving. On the evening of Thanksgiving Day, John Inglefield, the blacksmith, sat in his elbow chair among those who had been keeping festival at his board. Being the central figure of the domestic circle, the fire threw its strongest light on his massive and sturdy frame, reddening his rough visage, so that it looked like the head of an iron statue, all aglow from his own forge, and with its features rudely fashioned on his own anvil. At John Inglefield's right hand was an empty chair. The other places round the hearth were filled by the members of the family, who all sat quietly, while, with a semblance of fantastic merriment, their shadows danced on the wall behind them. One of the group was John Inglefield's son, who had been bred at college and was now a student of theology at Andover. There was also a daughter of 16, whom nobody could look at without thinking of a rosebud almost blossomed. The only other person at the fireside was Robert Moore, formerly an apprentice of the blacksmith, but now his journeyman, and who seemed more like his own son of John Inglefield than did the pale and slender student. Only these four had kept New England's festival beneath that roof. The vacant chair at John Inglefield's right hand was in memory of his wife, whom death had snatched from him since the previous Thanksgiving. With a feeling that few would have looked for in his rough nature, the bereaved husband had himself set the chair in its place next his own, and often did his eye glance thitherward, as if he deemed it possible that the cold grave might send back its tenant to the cheerful fireside, at least for that one evening. Thus did he cherish the grief that was dear to him. But there was another grief which he would fain have torn from his heart, or, since that could never be, have buried it too deep for others to behold, or for his own remembrance. Within the past year, another member of his household had gone from him, and not to the grave, yet they kept no vacant chair for her. While John Inglefield and his family were sitting around the hearth with the shadows dancing behind them on the wall, the outer door was opened, and a light footstep came along the passage. The latch of the inner door was lifted by some familiar hand, and a young girl came in wearing a cloak and hood, which she took off and laid on the table beneath the looking glass. Then, after gazing a moment at the fireside circle, she approached and took the seat at John Inglefield's right hand, as if it had been reserved on purpose for her. "Here I am, at last, father," she said. "You ate your Thanksgiving dinner without me, but I have come back to spend the evening with you." Yes, it was Prudence Inglefield. She wore the same neat and maidenly attire which she had been accustomed to put on when the household work was over for the day, and her hair was parted from her brow in the simple and modest fashion that became her best of all. If her cheek might otherwise have been pale, yet the glow of the fire suffused it with a healthful bloom. If she had spent the many months of her absence in guilt and infamy, yet they seemed to have left no traces on her gentle aspect. She could not have looked less altered had she merely stepped away from her father's fireside for half an hour and returned while the blaze was quivering upward from the same brands that were burning at her departure. And to John Inglefield, she was the very image of his buried wife, such as he remembered her on the first Thanksgiving which they had passed under their own roof. Therefore, though naturally a stern and rugged man, he could not speak unkindly to his sinful child, nor yet could he take her to his bosom. "You are welcome here, Prudence," said he, glancing sideways at her, and his voice faltered. "Your mother would have rejoiced to see you, but she has been gone from us these 4 months." "I know it, father, I know it," replied Prudence quickly. "And yet, when I first came in, my eyes were so dazzled by the firelight that she seemed to be sitting in this very chair." By this time, the other members of the family had begun to recover from their surprise and became sensible that it was no ghost from the grave, nor vision of their vivid recollections, but Prudence, her own self. Her brother was the next that greeted her. He advanced and held out his hand affectionately, as a brother should, yet not entirely like a brother, for with all his kindness, he was still a clergyman, and speaking to a child of sin. "Sister Prudence," said he, earnestly, I rejoice that a merciful providence hath turned your steps homeward in time for me to bid you a last farewell. In a few weeks, sister, I am to sail as a missionary to the far lands of the Pacific. There's not one of these beloved faces that I shall ever hope to behold again on this earth. Oh, may I see all of them, yours and all, beyond the grave. A shadow flitted across the girl's countenance. The grave is very dark, brother, answered she, withdrawing her hand somewhat hastily from his grasp. You must look your last at me by the light of the fire. While this was passing, the twin girl, the rosebud, that had grown on the same stem with the castaway, stood gazing at her sister, longing to fling herself upon her bosom, so that the tendrils of their hearts might intertwine again. At first she was restrained by mingled grief and shame, and by a dread that Prudence was too much changed to respond to her affection, or that her own purity would be felt as a reproach by the lost one. But as she listened to the familiar voice, while the face grew more and more familiar, she forgot everything save that Prudence had come back. Springing forward, she would have clasped her in a close embrace. At that very instant, however, Prudence started from her chair and held out both her hands with a warning gesture. No, Mary, no, my sister, cried she. Do not touch me. Your bosom must not be pressed to mine. Mary shuddered and stood still, but she felt that something darker than the grave was between Prudence and herself, though they seemed so near each other in the light of their father's hearth, where they had grown up together. Meanwhile, Prudence threw her eyes around the room in search of one who had yet not yet bidden her welcome. He had withdrawn from his seat by the fireside and was standing near the door with his face averted, so that his features could be discerned only by the flickering shadow of the profile upon the wall. But Prudence called to him in a cheerful and kindly tone. Come, Robert, said she, won't you shake hands with your old friend? Robert Mora held back for a moment, but affection struggled powerfully and overcame his pride and resentment. He rushed towards Prudence, seized her hand, and pressed it to his bosom. There, there, Robert, she said, smiling sadly as she withdrew her hand. You must not give me too warm a welcome. And now, having exchanged greetings with each member of the family, Prudence again seated herself in the chair at John Inglefield's right hand. She was naturally a girl of quick and tender sensibilities, gladsome in her general mood, but with a bewitching pathos interfused among her merriest words and deeds. It was remarked of her, too, that she had a faculty, even from childhood, of throwing her own feelings like a spell over her companions. Such as she had been in her days of innocence, so she did appear this evening. Her friends, in the surprise and bewilderment of her return, almost forgot that she had ever left them, or that she had forfeited any of her claims to their affection. In the morning, perhaps, they might have looked at her with altered eyes, but by the Thanksgiving fireside, they felt only that their own Prudence had come back to them, and were thankful. John Inglefield's rough visage brightened with the glow of his heart as it grew warm and merry within him. Once or twice, even, he laughed till the room rang again, yet seemed startled by the echo of his own mirth. The grave young minister became as frolicsome as a schoolboy. Mary, too, the rosebud, forgot that her twin blossom had ever been torn from the stem and trampled in the dust. And as for Robert Moore, he gazed at Prudence with the bashful earnestness of love newborn, while she, with sweet maiden coquetry, half smiled upon and half discouraged him. In short, it was one of those intervals when sorrow vanishes in its own depth of shadow, and joy starts forth in transitory brightness. When the clock struck 8, Prudence poured out her father's customary draught of herb tea, which had been steeping by the fireside ever since twilight. God bless you, child, said John Inglefield as he took the cup from her hand. You have made your old father happy again. But we miss your mother sadly, Prudence, sadly. It seems as if she ought to be here right now. Now, father, or never, replied Prudence. It was now the hour for domestic worship. But while the family were making preparations for this duty, they suddenly perceived that Prudence had put on her cloak and hood and was lifting the latch of the door. Prudence, Prudence, where are you going? Cried they all with one voice. As Prudence passed out of the door, she turned towards them and flung back her hand with a gesture of farewell. But her face was so changed that they hardly recognized it. Sin and evil passions glowed through its comeliness and wrought a horrible deformity. A smile gleamed in her eyes as of triumphant mockery at their surprise and grief. Daughter, cried John Inglefield between wrath and sorrow, stay and be your father's blessing, or take his curse with you. For an instant, Prudence lingered, and looked back into the fire-lighted room, while her countenance wore almost the expression as if she were struggling with the fiend who had power to seize his victim even within the hollowed precincts of her father's hearth. The fiend prevailed, and Prudence vanished into the outer darkness. When the family rushed to the door, they could see nothing, but heard the sound of wheels rattling over the frozen ground. That same night, among the painted beauties at the theater of a neighboring city, there was one whose dissolute mirth seemed inconsistent with any sympathy for pure affections and for the joys and griefs which were hallowed by them. Yet this was Prudence Inglefield. Her visit to the Thanksgiving fireside was the realization of one of those waking dreams in which the guilty soul will sometimes stray back to its innocence. But sin, alas, is careful of her bond slaves. They hear her voice, perhaps, at the holiest moment, and are constrained to go whither she summons them. The same dark power that drew Prudence Inglefield from her father's hearth, the same in its nature, though heightened then to a dread necessity, would snatch a guilty soul from the gate of heaven and make its sin and its punishment alike eternal. So the whole tale, the whole classic tale, the Twitter tale today, as always on this Thanksgiving Eve, is of what is going to happen tomorrow. When everyone comes together, what fiendish countenance will overcome people, right? This is like Prudence is like Prudence is Antifa, Antifa coming back to Dad's Thanksgiving, right? And you like a kind of professional man, a tradesman, a blacksmith, a serious guy whose son is, gone off to become gone off to go to the Orient to preach. He's a theologian, a radical congregationalist. So he's going off and he's gone. So he's left with his apprentice and his daughter, and who's good, and then his other daughter, the one who most resembles his wife who's passed. She's the one who's left as well, and she's at the theaters, right? She's a theater kid, so she's the one who comes back, and it's like she's back to her old self for like a day, and then they all fall into it, and they all are relieved. But at the end, she brings up politics. She won't do the religious observances that they all do. She won't participate in their faith. What a great Thanksgiving story. I think it applies to today. So be open to the prudences at your Thanksgiving tomorrow. Let grace overcome pride. But do not be surprised when they choose hell, if that's the case. Anyway, I don't have much to say. It's Thanksgiving, everyone. It's the most American holiday of all. Thanksgiving was the holiday. Christmas was nothing. Thanksgiving was everything, and Thanksgiving was like a month long in New England. Anyway, does anyone have anything they'd like to talk about or express? Mage, I can't put you on every time, Mage. I would, but I hope you're having a good Thanksgiving, everyone. If I don't get a request or something, I don't know. We can talk about whatever. Otherwise, guys, it's gonna be a pretty short space. I can look up other things to just read for you. I don't know. I'll talk about the Northmen. I guess I could talk about the Northmen. Ricky. All right, we got Ricky Mendoza. I always get the same people as speakers. Everyone's afraid to come on. All right, actually, Ricky, I'm removing you because you've been on before, and we got a new person. We have the NoHo trad wife. Okay, what's up?
What you thought about like the I don't know, I know I was reading about like the first Thanksgivings and stuff, and what you thought about like I don't know, we're taught in school about like the pilgrims and the Indians. Like, is there any truth in that stuff, or is like it
There's
like a common
truth in it
religion?
as much as there's truth in anything. I mean, it's What do you mean? I feel like that like that's what we learn about. I don't know. I grew up in New England, so it's kind of like yeah, we learned that in kindergarten, and then immediately learned like the exact opposite, and then you learn the opposite of that, and then you go learn the opposite of that, and there's just like that's how the education system works, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like George Washington, great, and then George Washington, bad, and then actually George Washington, pretty good, and then actually no, George Washington, worse than you could ever imagine, and that's just like how you learn, like, right? Isn't that
Yeah, pretty much. But like I was reading about the actual like historical record of like Washington's Thanksgiving Day proclamation and like the Puritan kind of origins of it. Like like I was reading about how the Puritans like kind of banned, not they didn't ban it, but they just didn't practice like Christmas or like the traditional Christian festivals. They more like focused on these like feasts of Thanksgiving and stuff. Do you
Yeah,
think
because it was just an agricultural. It was just like when all the crops were. It's like it was the harvest, so everyone was harvesting all this stuff.
so? Do you think it like if it's like agricultural and about like the harvest, like how do you think it can be like interpreted for like I don't know an urban population or somebody who's not necessarily connected to the land anymore?
Well, it's really about the commons. What is the harvest but the commons? Because the harvest is kind of stable across people, right? Even if you're all farmers, if the weather's bad this year or if farming's bad this year in your region, that's not just your problem, right? That's like a common problem. Like if there's a drought across like this state across all of New England, so everyone's having a troubled harvest, then everyone's sharing in like the common problem, right? If that makes sense, that's the commons, the harvest collectively, even if it's actually reaped by particular individuals who like have particular plots, etc. The entire society is the harvest there in that sense is a commons because they're putting it all together right at a Thanksgiving. Like it's if your all of your corn comes in and all of this person's squash comes in, then you're gonna eventually like level out the supply of corn and squash where you don't want all the corn and they don't want all the squash. You want to have both, right? Etc. It works like that with everything. So really the thing about the Thanksgiving is about the Thanksgiving. It's thankfulness for the common prosperity of the year, of like what everyone has harvested in all senses, produced. This is a blacksmith, right? We were telling the story I was just talking about is a blacksmith. So it's like it's not just farms, right? It's like it's a thankfulness for the bounty in general.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess that connects to like the dinners that they have for like, I don't know, the charity dinners and things that they like hold as sort of like a sharing of like, I don't know, it's definitely like it could be seen as like an urban imitation, like the dinners for like the homeless and the people who can't like have Thanksgiving, like the sort of pooling of resources for people who don't have like, do you think that the Thanksgiving holiday like of the community coming together to share stuff like I don't know is does it have like a potentially like communal or
Yeah,
community
of course
building?
it does. Of course it does, but that's why there's all this obsession with like to being like actually it means the exact opposite. It's just a facade. There is no like essential communalism, communism. There's no essential thankfulness for the commons. There's no essential goodness to Thanksgiving. It is all depraved. There's a false appearance of goodness. Thanksgiving's really about genocide, et cetera, et cetera. That's why they say that because it's actually you have to deny like we have this huge industry of denying the any essential goodness to anything in America, right? Any
Mhm.
of our traditions,
It's
anything
all
we do.
tainted by like the original sin of colonization
Yeah,
or
they're
what.
all essentially bad. Like
Mhm.
essentially bad is how we're like because then you can't like that's great propaganda, right? If you never want to accomplish anything. Everything's essentially bad. Like everything that people value normatively is essentially bad. Like our country is essentially bad. Everything's essentially bad. And this is like everywhere. This is
Mhm. Yeah, that kind of reminds me, the idea that everything is essentially bad kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, the capitalist realism type stuff that like
yes, that's what
people think
those people are like.
yeah.
Actually, that was like back in the day. I think Nick Fisher himself, I forget, Nick Land might have coined it to describe Mark Fisher back in the day, but he called it, I think, transcendental miserablism, which is this sense that things are just essentially bad.
Yeah, that's completely counterproductive. And do you think like I don't know, the cultural industry or whatever, the forces of capital promote that kind of mindset. Like, I don't know, it reminds me of like the Herbert Marcuse has like, or the Frankfurt School has like their revolutionary pessimism and things like that. Um, do you think like, that there's a conscious effort to promote that sort of like hopelessness and as you like transcendental miserableism like
Yeah,
by the ruling class?
yeah, I think so. I think it's also the ruling class is actually that's actually like the ruling class's ideology. Like to them, it is nothing. All of these things are meaningless. They hate Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
Can you
And I
imagine
think
like all
it's
the rich
even
people getting together,
pre-American
all of their
Thanksgiving.
families, they all hate each other, they all just want each other's assets.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like
And
what does it mean to them? It doesn't mean anything to them. It's just some stupid thing that the proles do.
yeah, um, I think Thanksgiving is pre-American too. Like the Puritans in England had feasts of Thanksgiving. So I
Yeah,
don't even know
it
if it
comes
could
from
be.
like the way it's like from apostolic communism, right? Like where you actually do you collect all of the things, the food together, and everyone eats.
Like they held all things in common, or
Yeah, these are like the love feasts. They were also called like agape, etc. These types. This is like how Christianity flourished, right? Is you'd have all these people who like not having a great one or whatever, and they all pool their resources.
mm, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's essentially good. Like I like Thanksgiving mostly.
Yeah, I mean the food is great too.
The thing is that it is also like this Kate that like there are like this does happen, like the Hawthorne story I read where it's like everything's like great. Like, people are like putting that like, putting things aside. I'm just remembering Thanksgiving like 2016 and things like that, you know what I mean? Like right after Trump won and everyone's like glaring at me. Things like that. Like there's times like that where the holiday does not have enough grace to overpower the concerns of the day or whatever.
Yeah,
But
and there's like everybody talk. I remember seeing all these memes that went about like their right-wing uncle that they wanted to like humiliate in front of the family who they only see like once a year or whatever. Um, like, why do you think I don't know, like it seems
because
like
to them
as
nothing is
families
sacred.
become, yeah,
Nothing
but
is sacred. Nothing is essentially good. Like this is just like what would be good about Thanksgiving is like them being able to brag later that like they like humiliated their libertarian uncle or something.
yeah, it sucks. Um, I started going to Bible studies and stuff, kind of inspired by like I don't know, reading like the Book of Acts and like James 5:4 and like all these different parts of the Bible that seem like I don't know to have a very different message than I don't know. I grew up in like liberal secular California and like they don't really teach that the Bible says any of that stuff. They just say it's like
Yeah,
about enslaving people and being like
yeah,
homophobic and stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Exactly. It's because you get these like it was a horrible deal that the evangelicals made with like the neocons effectively to which was like completely horrific, and we're seeing the effects of that in this generation and on. But I think ultimately, I'm sort of like a God's plan, providence kind of guy. I try to see providence in these things. Well, I think that those churches were already corrupted for the most part. You have things like the World Council of Churches and all of these like evangelical missions. Even like in that story, right? It sort of shows like like the true Christian thing to do would have been to become like inherit the family business of like blacksmithing. Like this kid abandoned the proletariat for like the PMC. So like the father's like journeyman is like really like his real like spiritual son. And the father, what he really wants is for his wayward daughter to marry like the person who has inherited his business so that they can recreate this Thanksgiving, this like way of life that that they existed within, right? That's like what the whole story is about.
yeah,
But these
and it's
evangelical
interesting.
missionary societies were how a lot of intelligence gathering was used. Like these, like obviously there's like a complicated relationship, like Christian missions and like the CIA and things like
And the
that. Like
CIA
they're
is still
yeah.
mostly Mormon, like disproportionately Mormon to
No, it's
this day.
Catholic. FBI is Mormon.
The FBI is Mormon, and I mean, I think both
CIA
the
is Catholic. It's
intelligence
all
agencies
Jesuits. The
are
CIA
like,
is Jesuits.
yeah,
I'm not even joking.
But I don't know. I was reading that both of them, like compared to the amount of Mormons that there are in the population, like they're overrepresented in like intelligence agencies, like even down to the local level, because like they learn all of like they know how to speak other languages, they learn how to like be chameleons and stuff on their like missions that they're all forced to do, basically. Um,
Yeah, but that's why they're good. Like they're used on certain levels, but they're not good at like compromising themselves in other ways.
mhm, yeah. And there's also like, I don't know, what do you think about what kind of irks me about Thanksgiving is like I was reading about like George Washington's sort of Thanksgiving proclamation and how it's a part of like establishing an American civil religion and things like that. Like, I don't know, this the kind of Freemason Enlightenment, um, like Jefferson Bible type attempt to deify like early America into, and
Well,
a
the
lot
thing
of it
is
just
this
like
is you're talking about Virginians. You're talking about Virginians whose relation to New England is not the same as the New Englanders' relationship to New England. The Revolution is really in New England. New England is like
mm,
where Thanksgiving comes from. The Puritans is ultimately what it is all about. It's because the
yeah, but
Puritans had this notion of a theopolitics, where your political life and your religious life are the same thing.
mm, yeah, that makes sense, and that's like why abolitionism and stuff is starts out in New England too. I feel
Yeah,
like that's
so like that's
close
really
to
the
it.
origin of it all. But the Puritans weren't Freemasons, right? The Freemasons come later. I mean, there is like element. The thing is that it's all developing at the same time
Yeah,
because you have like Puritan
and there's like a
alchemists.
difference between like the feasts of Thanksgiving, like where the name comes from, and like the ritualized like American Thanksgiving holiday that's like, becomes officially celebrated as like a sort of state activity by like, I don't know, as you say, like these
It's actually
Virginia people.
limited.
Yeah.
That was
Mm,
actually a limitation on how Thanksgiving actually worked because Thanksgiving wasn't a day; it was the time. Like this would all be Thanksgiving.
mhm.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
so
set
so it
aside
was
as a
like a
particular
codification
day.
and limiting of it. But like I feel like I don't know how much can we trace like the modern version of Thanksgiving to like that limited, state version of it versus like this earlier sort of,
Listen,
as
man,
you
Thanksgiving is what we make of it. Okay.
say.
Thanksgiving was made for man, not man for Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving is what you make of it. What you and your own, how you make what you make of it. That's what
That's
it
a good
is.
attitude. Thanks. I guess I get bogged down in like trying to find the roots of like where these holidays come from. But it's yeah, like you said, it's more about how it's a living thing. It's not like
Yeah.
a
It's a
codified old tradition or something.
yeah, well that's how what traditions are living things
Yeah.
anyway. And like they exist in order to be replicated and adapted and changed and all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. But I feel like I don't know, there's a difference between like the living traditions that I often feel are more oral and like the attempt to like codify traditions is like
Well,
written
here
sets
this
of
is what I
law.
want. This is my dream. This is my vision. I'll pitch you on this. We could call it Thanksgiving in general, but I'm saying we expand it out. We blow open the we turn Thanksgiving into more time than just one day, and
Yeah.
it's like Oktoberfest, but it's like Oktoberfest but for Puritan stuff. So it's like in the way that they at Oktoberfest in Germany dress up in lederhosen and things. I want everyone, people of all kinds, dressing up as Puritans and Indians at a carnival with all
Yeah,
of
that
the
would be great.
Thanksgiving fare, like pumpkin pie
And it would
tarts.
cut into like, I don't know, right now I feel like this time, like I used to work in retail and like during this time they wouldn't even it would just be Christmas songs already, like kind of the commercialized like I don't know, cult of mammon that Christmas has become would just like has just completely
Yeah, Christmas
subsumed
is
this month.
Catholic. Real
Mm,
talk. It's all about indulgences.
mm,
But the thing is that in our version of modernity, our time period now, our consumer culture or whatever, you buy indulgences by giving your children the toys. That's how you prove you're a good person for the
yeah,
whole year.
it serves as like a replacement for love, as this to a certain extent.
Well, it's indulgences. It's how you know that you're getting into heaven.
Mm.
is you bought Timmy a PlayStation. There's movies about this. It's like, it's a common theme in American Christmas is a fucking nightmare. I think Thanksgiving's way
Yeah.
better. Thanksgiving is like all the good parts of Christmas.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like I definitely support like an expansion of Thanksgiving. If not like I don't know, I just think there has to be like culture built around it. Like there are Christmas songs and like outfits and aesthetics and all these like these
Hey
things
man,
are
we
kind
got
of
Alice's
self-contained.
Restaurant.
Yeah, I've
You
never
ever
heard
listen
that
to
one.
Alice? You haven't listened to Alice's Restaurant? Are you kidding me? The Thanksgiving song.
I'll have to give it a listen.
I'm just amazed because it plays like 24/7. It's Arlo Guthrie.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah, like we have Thanksgiving song. Like this song is like I can't remember a Thanksgiving where I did not hear Alice's Restaurant in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My
You
to
gotta
me, it's
fucking
just
listen
like
to it right now. Actually, everyone here, if you have
I'll
never
listen to
heard
it.
Alice's Restaurant on Thanksgiving, you have to. It's literally like the Thanksgiving song. It's like a movie too. It's a
Yeah, I think
beautiful
I'm gonna go
song.
listen to it right now.
It
But it was
takes
nice
place in
talking to
I know
you.
exactly where it takes place. It takes place in Massachusetts. The whole thing. It's a beautiful song. This is literally like the New England time of year. That's another thing. Is the spirit of America is reflected in the fact that our like most idiosyncratic holiday, Thanksgiving, being just pure New England Yankee Americana. Like this is like, like Bob Dylan when he's doing the Rolling Thunder Review, they played like the Thanksgiving shows here because it's here. This is the Thanksgiving place. All right, I think that person dropped out. Let's see. I got Matthew Mead. I don't know if I've talked to you before. What's up? Howdy.
Thanksgiving is free time.
Thanksgiving is free
It
time,
is. It totally
and
is.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's our collective free time. That's literally what the harvest is.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I had to make an alt. We've interacted a few times, but I had to make an alt to actually be able to request speakership. But I'm glad I was finally
Oh,
able.
really?
Yeah, I'm glad I was finally able to get on though. But I just wanted to say thank you because my girlfriend is like she's like a Destiny watcher, and then I've been like pilling her on you. So like I was giving her like your music takes to get her into you, and now I've got her reading. We're reading the Bible together and shit. And so yeah,
Beautiful.
I'm fucking get because she was like so miserable from she works she works at Rexall, which is like this Canadian like it's like Walgreens essentially.
I know what Rexall is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's in a actually Rexall appears in a Charles Olson poem.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah. But yeah, she's like, yeah, she hates it there. And I was like, well, maybe you need a little grace. Let's read the Bible. She's really getting into it. She really likes it. She's like, we're going through in order. So we just finished the Torah. So we just finished Deuteronomy. And then we're going to start Joshua either tonight or tomorrow. And then,
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, and she's so into it though that she's already jumping ahead. She's like, I can't wait to get to New Testament to the gospel to Jesus. And I'm like, I know
Yeah.
he's so fucking cool, dude. Jesus is the
You gotta
best.
watch The Chosen.
Yeah, yeah. So
The Chosen's really good. Also, new season coming out in like 2 weeks. I think it's in theaters. I think it's actually that's one of the most crazy things that's happened. I was like, I've been talking up The Chosen, but The Chosen was in the box office top 5 for like in being in like limited theaters. I think it played in 2,000 theaters. They showed the first 2 episodes of the new season as a movie, and it's made millions and millions of dollars, and it's all crowdfunded. So it's like they've already funded like another season of the show. It's insane.
hell yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll have to watch that together because you've said nothing but good things about it, and like it's
It's
always
really good.
yeah, like good Christian media in general is always like the most interesting, like prophetic. It always says more than it even intends to. Like it's always the best media in general. Is like a something that has a spiritual side to it. So yeah, I'll check. We'll definitely try and check. We'll definitely check that out because it's free online. You said right?
Yeah. It's free. TheChosen.tv. I'll promote them.
For sure. All right, man. Well, I just wanted to say I wanted to give my thanks. Thank you for your service logo. I just wanted to say what's up.
Thanks for showing up, man. Thanks for being here. That's all I can think. If you weren't here, I'd be talking to no one.
Definitely, man. If you weren't here, I would have much less inspiring content to engage with.
I guess that's good. I'm a good algorithm then. All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
For sure.
I'm gonna read actually that Charles Wilson poem because I updated my website. I don't know if you guys have checked it or whatever, but it just has all the podcasts now, and I think it's probably easier to get to my writing. I don't remember, but I quoted this in one of the last pieces I wrote, and I figured I'd just read the whole poem because I like it a lot, and it's been summoned here. But it's Charles Olson. I believe it's in the Maximus poems. It's Maximus to Gloucester, letters 27 withheld or something. Anyway, I come back to the geography of it. The land falling off to the left, where my father shot his scabby golf, and the rest of us played baseball into the summer darkness until no flies could be seen. We came home to our various piazzas where the women buzzed. To the left, the land fell to the city. To the right, it fell to the sea. I was so young, my first memory is of a tent spread to feed lobsters to Rexall conventioneers, and my father, a man for kicks, came out of the tent roaring with a bread knife in his teeth to take care of the druggist they'd told him had made a pass at my mother. She laughing, so sure, as round as her face, Heinz, pink and apple, under one of those frame hats women then. This is no bare incoming of novel abstract form. This is no welter or the forms of those events. This, Greeks, is the stopping of the battle. It is the imposing of all those antecedent predecessions, the precessions of me, the generation of those facts which are my words. It is coming from all that I no longer am, yet am, the slow westward motion of more than I am. There is no strict personal order for my inheritance. No Greek will be able to discriminate my body. An American is a complex of occasions, themselves a geometry of spatial nature. I have this sense that I am one with my skin, plus this, that forever the geography which leans in on me, I compel backwards, I compel Gloucester to yield, to change. Polis is this. It's this. All right. Ethnoclasm. Tristepin. What's up, man?
Hello?
What up, dude?
Oh, you let me in?
Yeah, what's up?
Oh. Hey, I wanted to say I saw The Chosen in theaters. It was actually like pretty good. Like I saw the new episodes and
Oh yeah, was it good?
yeah.
It's like the Sermon on the Mount, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But I wanted to ask if you've ever heard of Rastafari.
Yeah, I know a little bit
Yeah.
about the
Like they're
Rastafarians.
like I was interested because their like conception of Babylon and like what they consider it to be and like is interesting because like I've seen the same thing in a lot of like Puritan stuff. And like I saw a
Yeah,
tweet that was
it's
like, oh, like pointing out the
yeah,
similarities, and I was just like, wow, it's like white, it's like black Puritans or like white.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are the Puritans really? They're just the most radical, like serious Christians. That's like how they identified themselves. They were like, no, like we're all about like we're the most
They're like the
Christian. You know
keepers
what I
of the
mean?
original way. Like that's what they consider themselves to
Yeah,
be.
they were like we. They believed that they had to follow the original, like they had to act like the apostles. They had to act like the
Yeah,
actual disciples, not just like.
that's like what my denomination. I'm actually a Pentecostal, and that's like what like I was the recent sermon at my church. They were like talking about how like they like have the original way and like how it became like too legalistic, and I guess they were talking about like Catholics and whatever, and they were like, oh, like if you trace it, like it comes back to our church. Like they're almost like claiming a sort of apostolic succession through like tradition, like the true tradition. Like that's kind of what every
Yeah,
denomination feels. But I actually,
Yeah, communists do the same thing. If you notice, actually, everyone does this. Everyone creates a genealogy for like how their thing is like the oldest and truest thing, etc. Everyone does that.
have you ever heard of like those messianic Christians? Like they're like not necessarily messianic Jews, but like they're like they keep like they keep Sabbath and like they do like all the Jewish traditions while still considering themselves Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm almost like wondering like whether or not they're right. Like
Well, the thing is that this is actually all discussed like within like Acts and the
yeah, I know
epistles,
like the
etc.
Judaizers and like the like whether
Well, the thing is that you can do it either way. The whole point isn't about whether or not you perform a one of these ordinances, right? The point is what the spirit of it is. Like if you're doing it to preserve like the good in it, then that's good. But if you're just doing it and you think that that makes you good because you're doing it, that's
yeah,
not true. You know what I mean?
I understand. I guess like what was interesting about it is like I often feel like, and that's part of the reason why I'm interested in The Chosen is because like I often feel like a lot of the Jewish roots of Christianity are kind of like I saw that tweet you did about like how the right kind of takes like they want Jesus Invictus is what you said.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Like I got
They want
that.
Odin.
Yeah, like
I just watched the Northmen. They're like Odin. There's actually a line in the Northmen, right, where like one of the Vikings, like they call all the slaves Christians, but one of the Viking guys, he's just like, these people worship a corpse that's hanging on a tree. Yeah,
bro, like like Vinland Saga.
yeah. I know
A
Vinland
lot of that
Saga.
is about like Christian morality versus like pagan morality, and like
Yeah.
yeah, but like that's like one of the things that was always interesting to me is like how Christianity is essentially like a messianic Jewish movement. Like it's interesting to me that that a lot of that gets lost, even though like obviously it's not. I'm not like you don't. It is a different religion essentially, but like a lot of that gets lost, and that's why I'm interested in a lot of
Well,
these
the
like
point actually, it's greater than that because the point is not that it's just Jewish. The point is that if Christ is the Messiah, right, then he's the Messiah for
yeah,
everyone.
of course, yeah. Like what
So,
is it
so
that
that
Paul
means that
says?
like,
Like the mystery is that the Gentiles are also partakers in the covenant.
well, the thing is that this is also found. This actually, it's the only way to make sense of a lot of the mysteries in the Old Testament. Of course, there's like centuries of rabbinical traditions and interpretations of these like odd sayings in the Old Testament or odd happenings, or like how is this the case? Because there's a lot of anomalous stuff that happens that you can be like, oh, okay, I don't know. You just kind of move on from it. Like for instance, the King Josiah, the greatest king of Israel, is slain by the Pharaoh of Egypt because he goes at the Pharaoh of Egypt is at war with a neighboring empire, and he wants to pass through to go to war there. And Josiah says, "You will not pass through our lands." And he's like, "I'm not even trying to fight you." And he says, "God is with me. God is with me in this struggle. And if you stand in my path, you'll be destroyed." And Josiah stands in his path, and he's destroyed. And it's like this is the king, right? So it's like so then in that case, the Pharaoh, right, actually was God's chosen vessel. You see what I'm saying? So it's like that it clears more of that sort of stuff up. Where and it's also if Jesus is the Messiah, then he's been the Messiah. He's been the Word from the beginning. From the beginning, from
Yeah, from
always
the
has been.
living in the he is the word for like forever. Like I
Which
like
means
how
that you judge the Old
also like
Testament from
Paul
those
basically
standards as
says
well.
Paul basically argues that like the Greeks are like gay because they denied this and like they like they could have been monotheistic or whatever and like they were given over to bad passions and things like that.
Yeah, basically. I mean, like that. You effectively you have you become it's like an oligarchic slave corporation. That's like what you can have if you if you don't not a monotheist. Monotheism requires like a sense of the commons because like what is the commons? It's God. Like it's all our God. We're all sons of God. God is one. You know.
It's one. It's all. I think you put it like many under one instead of few over many.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So like the Greeks, right, or like even this pagan thing. There's the conception of the few the chosenness of particular the elect. Like a lot of this bleeds into some aspects of like more idolatrous forms of Christianity, where they speak often of like the afterlife and Valhalla, or essentially this type of Christianized Valhalla, because obviously these things coalesce together, like in Celtic lands and where the Vikings were, etc. When they were Christianized, like these things. That's why we have Christmas in the first place. It's a pagan ritual. Same thing with Halloween. Like they're old pagan celebrations.
Yeah, that's interesting because like I actually was like thinking about like the difference between like what do you think of? Are you a Calvinist? I'm actually interested. Are you a Calvinist?
Kind of, but not really. Like people would classify
I'm
me as
like
one, but it's like I don't agree with Calvin on everything. Like I probably agree with Servetus, who like Calvin like burned at the stake more than Calvin even. But
yeah, like I find it hard to rationalize whether or not I'm like a Calvinist because I do believe in the essential idea of like God's elect, but at the same time I also think it's a bit more complicated than that.
my problem goes like all the way back to like the beginning of things, right? Because it's like I would say the problems with Calvin are really the problems of like Augustine, however you want to say it.
Oh.
Like I would say like the doctrine of like absolute depravity, etc. Like I'm a
Yeah,
Pelagian.
I don't understand where that comes from. That's like not in the Bible.
Yeah, I
Like
know. It's like
the
I'm a
idea like
Pelagian, so
Jesus
I go
actually
way back.
says like there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than than righteous people who need no repentance. Except like that means that there are righteous people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like so that's like where that's like where I kind of part ways, but I do agree like a lot of it isn't will, it's like grace, but at the same time like
I think it's all grace.
yeah.
Like I'm like a radical Protestant, if that makes sense. Like I'm
Yeah,
like
I
a
noticed that. I noticed that. I actually am not entirely against Catholics. Like I'm a Protestant as well, but like I do believe they have like a
not
lot
against the
of good.
people, but against the
Yeah,
institution, almost definitely. Absolutely. I think that they're just like they've invented their own thing and they worship
yeah.
their form of it, but they don't have
Where I
any.
part with them a lot of the time is like their idea of salvation. Like it's like almost explicitly stated. Like salvation is not like it is. It's not what Catholics say it is. Like that's like what, or at least that's how I read it. Like from Paul and John, like you shouldn't like the way that they conceive of it is something that's worth like splitting the church over.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it was worth it, which is why it happened. You know what I mean? Like everything happens for good reasons. Like the Catholics, their whole thing is just explaining why everything that has happened shouldn't have happened. Like most of the time, they're like, "Oh, none of this should have happened." Like they excommunicated all of the churches in the East. They still had like, you know what I mean? Like why is it like the Catholic Church now is also very funny because it's basically been put back together by like the CIA and things like that during World War II. Because originally, the Catholic Church was like, oh yeah, all these everyone who isn't Catholic is going to hell, right? And now it's like, okay, like no, we're gonna recognize that there are Christians and other like this whole type of what is it
my,
called?
I read somewhere it said Jesus was the first ecumenicalist. Like
Oh, ecumenicalist. Yeah.
he said like they were complaining because someone was casting out demons and not his like and wasn't going with them, and he said don't stop him. Like it's pretty obvious. So to me that means like the churches should be amiable even if they aren't exactly the same or
Well,
with each
you
other.
judge by the fruits. If you see something
Yeah,
that's doing good, you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Let them do what they're going to do. But if they're doing evil, you could be like, go. You know what I mean? It's not the opposite. If Jesus didn't say that of a guy summoning demons, so it's like if the guy's out there casting out demons, he's like doing something good. He's caught like the fruits of his efforts are good. Then there's no reason to like be like this isn't the form that this should be expressed in. But my problem with the Catholic Church is that to me, it's much more like, it's like they're just molesting people. It's a gangster bank for fucking the papal nobility and ancient regime of like Rome and Switzerland, the Swiss Guard of the papal bank. Yeah, and I don't see it. It's just like completely allied with like gangsters, Sicilian gangster secret
wow, yeah,
societies and shit. So it's like, yeah,
yeah,
I don't see any good coming out of the Catholic Church.
wow. I mean, they do like charity. That's good.
But no, but charity's a fraud. Like charity's a whole like fraud. Like charity is just getting tax write-offs. Charity is soft power. Charity means like NGOs. Charity is just what we call a certain type of governance now. Like non-governmental organizations. We call them that because we have to, because what they actually do is govern. It's like, what do non-NGOs do? Well, they govern, but they're not a part of the government technically. So they're NGOs. The Catholic Church is a giant NGO.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's what it does. It governs. It governs, right? That's like why there was also the Reformation. You have these political issues where it's like, okay, you're governing, but I'm the king here. Like, and they're like, well, the kings all are appointed ultimately by God, so that means they have to be approved by the Vicar of Rome, who is the representative of God, right? So you have the Pope is now saying who's the emperor and who's not.
The anti-king stance is biblical.
Well, kind of, but also not, because there's good kings in the Book of Kings.
Yeah, but like God's people weren't even supposed to have a king.
They asked
like
for one.
They begged for that, and like I was like, okay, well, you can just have one, and then he was bad.
Well, the same thing with the priests. They tried to rule with the priests. They tried to rule with a single monarch. They tried a hybrid of that form, which is like the Hasmoneans. And Jesus is like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. You need democratic centralism in Christ.
Yeah. But thanks for having me on. I actually got to go, but yeah.
Absolutely, man. It's nice talking to you.
Yeah.
All right. We got Kudzu. Kudzu. What's up?
Oh, hey, am I on?
Yeah.
Hey, brother. I wanted to echo one of the previous talkers that said thank you for just that kind of leadership towards Jesus, dude. Like, I was listening to your prior space. We were talking to the gentleman who was a Satanist. I was like, dude, that's just the best apologetics I've heard in a while. So I wanted to say kudos on that. But I had a question for you. So I've been following you for a minute, and I know you've expressed distrust towards denominations, churches in general, and you've kind of identified yourself as I guess, free will or non-associated Christian. What made you, orient yourself towards that rather than joining a specific denomination?
I just think I always was that.
Right. Do you
like it's like the thing is like I wouldn't like participation in like an institution or whatever. I don't think is like the same thing as like belonging in that sense. Like I don't really believe like, if you're born into like this church, etc., and it's like a part of your life form, it's like a normative thing that you adhere to or whatever, and you want to like work within that to make it better, like that's fine or whatever.
Sure.
But like to worship that as like the meaningful thing is just attendance, etc., I think is like, mistaking the form for what the actual content is. The actual content is like the scripture, right? Like if you're not, if the whole thing isn't like elucidating scripture to you in a way that's like applicable to your immediate concerns, then it's not fulfilling like what its only purpose is to do. And there's actually myriad of people who are all doing this all the time, right? Like we're talking about it right now. So It's sort of like, what is this institution actually doing in this time period? Like there's a whole history to what it's done in the past. Like a lot of these denominations, this is like where insurance came from. The first like insurance providers were churches, right? Like the Scottish Presbyterians and things like that. And they these forms had their role at the time, but at this point they were completely absorbed by like the rule of finance, right? So it's like, what do the churches do here? Like when you raise money for this, it goes to like charities and NGOs. It's all just a part of the same complex. So it's like, to me, it's like they're not really like there are also other churches, right? There's like primitive Baptist churches or whatever. There's churches where it's effectively just people like showing up. They're like reading groups. I don't know. Like, what is it? Do you have to name it? Like to me, it's just a way of being. Like I see the in the New Jerusalem, the temple, the church is everything. Everything and everyone is already in it. So it's like that's how I try to see things. I don't think that there's like a scorecard. You like show up at the pearly gates and they're like, okay, all right, which denomination were you? Did you pick the right one? I don't think that's how it works, I think it's much more simple. It's just faith. Just have faith. All right. I don't know if you're still around, man, but I'm gonna add another person. I think your mic's not working or something. But thanks for coming on. Whoop whoop! It's my Juggalo friends. You having a Juggalo Thanksgiving? Fago on tap.
Logo, whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop, dude. How's your Thanksgiving, man? Or how's it gonna be?
Is it tomorrow, right? Or is it today?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
tomorrow.
dude, I just woke up. I'm so sorry. I saw this thing. I had to cop in because the topic it popped up. I'm like, oh, I gotta say something. It's insane.
Well, what do you gotta say, man?
No, well, the past few days, like the topic of the New Jerusalem. Sorry, I've been reading heavy into Blake because the influence of what you've shown. So, and it's kind of funny how like when you can kind of have a conversation about it and then kind of tie it into communism or any form of discussion of the New Republic. It's so funny how when you discuss it and you have, I would say, the spirit. I guess that's the best way you could describe it, is that it flows through you in such a fluent way. It's actually kind of beautiful. It's really weird because it feels.
Yeah, it's actually there's a where. Let me see. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Mark 13:11. This one I like. When they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what ye shall speak, neither do ye premeditate. But whatsoever shall be given you in that hour, that speak ye. For it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Ghost. So this is like sort of a biblical sanction for winging it, as they say. That you don't really need a defense. It'll come to you if you have faith. If you ever have the hermeneutic, then what your defense, like your under your reasoning here, will just be provided to you in that hour. You don't need to, prepare.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny as I don't have to have like my debate footnotes or anything to really own anybody. Like I'm just like here. I'm here to speak reality and truth. That's all I'm here for because you're here and I'm here. So I don't know what this. That's what I gotta
Yeah.
say.
They're like this is like one of the most insufferable things I think about like internet discourse is the way that debate culture, and by debate I mean like college debate, like team debate, like judge debate, like professional debate or whatever, debating societies, etc. The way that their like sort of game theoretical understanding of rhetoric and things kind of applies to everything. So everyone's looking for like logical fallacies or describing particular like rhetorical moves or whatever, and it turns into this like fucking like Pokemon RPG type thing where it's like, I see you deployed the ad hominem,
No, no. Oh my god. Yeah, no, it really
like
is.
Today someone was like someone right there, their self-description on Twitter is like Evolian mystic blah 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 blah, and I'm like, okay, so you're like a fascist, and they're like, so the ad hominem comes out finally. I'm just like, I just establishing like that, like that's what you are, right? Like I don't care. I'm not scandalized. I'm just saying, like,
oh man, that's terrible.
but
Yeah,
internet debating stuff.
I have a lot of discussions about like the particular topic of like in what's happening in our country, especially, and just the people around me. I'm like, like I keep telling him like, here's the answer. Like not to say like, I mean, I'm still learning myself, but it's like, it's becoming more and more apparent every time I learn more things. I'm like, yeah, I just keep being more right. It's like, it's ridiculous. And I try to humble myself in the idea, like, I'm learning more, and it's like, I feel like it in what you said before to the other dude, it's kind of like I was always this way. It felt that's how I feel as well. It's like, yeah, I just know in a way. It's weird. And it feels really unfortunate that it comes down to the limitation where people kind of ultimately limit themselves and also their imaginative states. That's a tough one to
That's
kind
Satan.
of deal with.
That's literally what
Yeah.
Satan is, and like Blakean understanding, right, is the limiter. It's the limit.
Yeah, the reason, the bound, or whatever.
Yeah. They refuse to imagine. They refuse to expand their imaginations, which is funny because there's this whole like like liberal metaverse like thing about like imagination, like oh the power of our imaginations, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like the imaginations within their bounds is what all of their movies and things are about. Where it's like oh, but people can imagine bad things, so we got to put bounds on our imagination.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
want
No,
someone to
it's
imagine anything bad, would you?
right. Well, you were talking about a metaphysical. What was it? It was one of your posts recently about the metaphysical like anarchy that people would perceive in regards to like in that kind of like perspective. I thought that was phenomenal because that's how kind of when I was about 2 years or a year or so ago or 2 years ago, like that's how I kind of perceived when you were when you were explaining it. I'm like, God, it just seems like the word seems like utter like fuck chaos, like it's insane, but it's actually the complete opposite. And I'm like, oh, now this makes way more sense.
Yeah. It's like a super sensible. It's above even sense making. It is what gives rise to the making of sense. You know what I mean? It's like
Right,
yeah. It's like you can't
yeah,
even have sense, like anything making sense,
right.
without this being fundamentally, communicable of like truths or whatever. If you have a certain like doubt on the mean like that language can portray truth or describe truth, or that language is not just pure metaphysical anarchy, then
Hmm.
you can't do any like there's nothing to say.
Right. Yeah, there would. Yeah, you'd just be quiet and
Even
silence.
the act of saying that would be pointless.
Right. Right. It's funny how yeah, when you really sit down and think about it, you could I don't know, it is quite powerful, like words and just description, just everything you can do. It's just it's blown my mind more recently, but in a like a really positive way. It's really cool. Like the past few days I've been like way for like a week been like super creative. I created like my own like song, my lyrics. I had never made lyrics to a song before. I was just like, dude, I just allow myself to just do it. Like, stop being afraid. Just go do
Yeah, it's
things.
already there.
Yeah, it's there. Just go do it.
Yeah, it's really that simple. It's really,
Yeah.
really that simple. People place limits on themselves and things like that all the time, where it's like, oh, I can't make it until it's like good or
Hmm.
something. And it's like, you should just make it anyway. It'll probably suck. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah. If it sucks, just keep trying. I don't. Why would you not try? Like my friend brought. We had a Friendsgiving last week, and his mom makes this really good macaroni, and he just telling me like, "Oh, did you make that?" And he's like, "No, I can't make that. I could never do that. Like, that's impossible." I'm like, "Why do you say that? Like,
Yeah, like, why would you
what the
say that
heck?"
about yourself?
Yeah, I used to do it, but I don't do that anymore. I'm like, why would I ever do that? That's the dumbest thing to say about yourself, but people do it. It's really common.
Yeah, that's Blake always talks about false humility. Like, that's false humility.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's in a way it's like you just don't know. It's just like you just really got to put your foot out and have more. I would say confidence in
Yeah,
oneself and
faith,
abilities.
really. And
Yeah.
like the fact that
Yes. Faith.
like
Yeah.
maybe you're not capable of doing something now, but you could be
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually.
Just believe in yourself. Like ultimately, yeah, believe in yourself. Like that's what it's like. It is really that simple.
Everything's very simple, but that's why like everyone's confusions about things are way more complicated. So it's like actually this is all very simple, and then people are like, "Well, it doesn't appear simple to me because I'm skeptical of this and this and that and this and that and this and that." And then it's like you spend the rest of your life trying to assuage people's doubts.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You've talked about like I was in another one, I don't know, months ago, and you talked about like how sharpening your reason through I guess I forgot what it was, like you sharpen your reason through what is it, faith or something, or I don't remember the top, like
Yeah,
it's
well, or it's like Occam's razor. Like
oh,
Occam's
okay, yeah.
razor was like it ultimately relies on faith. Like everything relies upon faith. You have to have
Hmm.
faith that you're not that you are real, that you even exist.
Right,
You know,
yes.
because it's like that's the thing of Descartesian sort of thing. Like I think, therefore I am. Well, it's like how do you know you're the one thinking? Maybe how do you know that?
Yeah, right. Been
Maybe you're
through
just
that trip for
subject
a
to
minute.
thoughts that are being beamed to you from
Yeah.
the devil.
Yeah, yeah. Some ominous, yeah, thing is just, transmitting psychically through you to like just say stupid stuff or do anything.
Well, that's sort of like that's like straight up though. That's like a lived cosmology in a lot of like the Nordic or pagan sort of faiths, right? Where it's like you are an object of these transcendental forces that you will never understand, right? That like these titanic forces of like the gods and like the other world, the invisible realm, that they just play around with our realm, and you're just like in it, and you have like vague understanding, vague hints at what your purpose is as an object in this place, being like as a piece being moved around.
The chess piece, yeah. You're the toy. You're the thing to be played with.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
God. Yeah, but it's funny. It's all ultimately people. What I would say to other people is like, yeah, like honestly, read Blake, really, read Blake and
read Blake or go to hell.
read Fry. Holy hell,
simple.
it changes a lot of things.
Yeah. All right, man. It's been nice talking to you, but I think Kudzu
Yeah.
is back around, so I'm gonna let him
Absolutely,
back on.
yeah. Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Whoop whoop.
All right, Kudzu, I'm letting you back on. Hopefully your mic's working. What up?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's
Sorry
up, man?
about that. Yeah, sorry, my phone had died, and so I missed your response, but I'll listen back to it later. But I was going to recommend a beautiful book that I have just finished reading that I have reread based off something my dad had told me about a year ago. I had really big qualms with my faith in general, and I had actually left the Catholic Church and had really become to live this like hedonistic lifestyle and all this stuff. And my dad had a conversation with me where I asked him, I said, Dad, how do I know God's real? And he suggested this book called Gentle and Lowly by Dave Ortland. And he references the Puritan Fathers very heavily, and I highly recommend it. I think you'd love it. It is probably one of the more complete breakdowns of that Puritan thought about Christ, and it really does step on the face of this whole like Christus Rex, like God is the hammer, he is my sword, all that stuff. I mean, it really is just this like revolutionary thought about Christ as both the I guess the proletariat, as you'd say, but I just was a recommendation, but I'll be done here.
Oh, cool. I'm looking into it right now because it looks interesting. I might read
Yeah,
it.
I recommend it to anybody who's listening. It's a fantastic book, and it really rescued my faith.
Cool. Well, that's great, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'll check that out. I'm looking it up right now. I see there's like some controversy around it or something. I don't know. That's like everything, though. All right. Anyone else got anything? Anyone want to express a Thanksgiving message, or could argue about things or anything like that? I got the two. You always get on these spaces. There's like the three people who are always down to be on, and then it's like, yeah, I know Borg ended up talking about the same things. I want some new people. So I'm sure there's a lot of new people out there listening. They should come on, send in a request, and you can be on the show. I want to run until like 2. So, all right, it's time for Mage to come on. All right, Mage, you're up, buddy. What's up, bro?
Not much. Doing some Thanksgiving cooking and stuff, but I wanted to talk about your article because I thought it was great.
It was from a while ago. It's just that people don't really read it. But yeah.
Well, because I have
thanks.
to copy and paste the password, and then I'm like,
yeah.
tabs and yeah. But I didn't know that was from so long ago. I thought I saw your tweet. You updated the website, so I went and looked at it.
Yeah. No, I'm working on the next part of that series. I'm trying to get back into writing things again, a longer form. But I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, why even describe all of this? I write the same thing over and over again, and sometimes I'm just like, I've already said all of this.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. It's good stuff. The shit that happened to me before I went to Japan was got everyone coming at me for dangerous thought patterns, and my dangerous thought patterns are everything is everything. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really liked the article. It was great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just like I think something I wrote, like the thing we were talking. I was talking about this with my Juggalo buddy. He's talking about the thread I wrote earlier this week. I think about like the from the perspective of empiricism, language is just like metaphysical anarchy. I think that's like the real issue today. Is you get this like combination of people who speak in like. I was noticing this when I watched Fleischman is in Trouble. Have you seen that? It's on like FX right now or something. It's like a new prestige drama about like neurotic Jewish divorce. Very big subject for Hollywood as of late. Lots of many such cases, but it's pretty well done. Anyway, the way the narration works is like something that falls into something like Mr. Scientism is written about, where it moves from like this kind of quirky wackadoodle shit, like we're all heckin' space rocks and shit, to the most like dehumanizing, like almost medical and anatomical, being like the neurons in my brain were telling me I'm hungry. You know what I mean? And it's like that switching between modes where it's like you either can describe things quote unquote in a grounded realistic fashion by reducing them purely to their mechanical or technical functioning, like a description in a sort of medical handbook, or you can talk about it in a sort of like cutesy childlike like kids book kind of way. And it's that sort of like combination which I think is like very sinister. It's like very spook creepy to me. It's like a groomery. I don't know. Where it's like, it's all just like touch. It's like it's like the way that like that a pedophile would describe like convincing a child or something to like touch. Well, it's just touching people. It's just we're all just made of people. We're all just the same.
We're all
It's
just
just a.
plot and play. It's
It doesn't mean any. It's all just reducible to this thing. It's not gonna anything.
Yeah, no, it's insane. I haven't been watching as much TV, but I get I get fucked up by watching those just shitty YouTube videos I get recommended. And I got recommended one by an Asian American architecture student, and she was like, "Our understanding of reading is not very good. It's really just you look at words and you recognize them." And then right after this, she goes into like, "Oh, reading is like being a kid and sitting at school and being in space." It's literally exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Just like she just switched from medical handbook and your neurons fired. Blah, 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 blah,
It's
to,
literally how
I'm sitting on the stairs.
it's how like the military propaganda state works in its essence, though, because what you have is like you have like simultaneously like this pure like quote unquote empiricist like description of just like supply chains and like absolute material necessities and like real politic and things. If you're reading like the Rand Corp or something, where it's just like in the game of in the great game of geopolitics, like nothing is off the table, and if it's all about energy supply lines, et cetera, et cetera. But you go from that to like our defensive Zelensky is like Captain America, and it's like both of those at the same time, where you have like the most childish, naive, like cartoon version of things, allied with this ostensibly like sort of cynical, above it all, alienated perspective of pure empiricism. And actually, that's what Rick and Morty's about too, isn't it? It's like just this combination, these two things I just have been seeing in combination everywhere now that I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, it's the jaded, quote wise old man who realizes everything is simply a game, and then the the
And if
innocent
it's a
child.
game, then we can wear our pants as a hat. Everything's just a game, so we can wear our pants as a hat. It's like that.
Yeah, no, it's awful. It's truly awful. Yeah, I don't know. I hate it.
It's very Gen X-y. I don't know. I feel like the millennials lean far more on the cutesy wootsy.
Yeah, I know the Gen Xers are really like, it's very simple. We're all just bags of flesh.
It's simple. We're just here to fart around. It's simple. There's no meaning to anything. Duh.
And it's just like, why not just kill yourself? and then they're just like,
Because I love
I want to
fucking
maximize
jerking
fun.
off. Yeah, I mean that's like the character. That's like a character in my book, right? That's like supposed to be the father character is like this exact incarnation of being like, I don't kill myself because I like TV. Like, but
Yeah,
it do be like that.
yeah. If you know, I'm always in the One Piece discourse, and every few weeks there's like, I'm not gonna kill myself because I want to see what the One Piece is. That's the only reason I'm alive.
The only reason I haven't killed myself is to read a comic book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Even if it's the best comic book of all time.
I
Still.
mean, true. Even if it is One Piece, that's still retarded.
Yeah. So like, but then think of it like even worse, where it's like, if it wasn't for your OnlyFans account, I would have killed myself.
Yeah, like the hyper sentimental like Reddit comment of like, thank you so much for your content. It saved my life.
Yeah. But I mean, people do express that in an honest way. People express that to me, but at the same time, I'm sort of like, I'm just a guy on the internet. But
Yeah.
I'm just
What are you
posting, bro.
making for Thanksgiving? What's on the menu?
Well, right now my wife is baking pies at her house. We're having like it's gonna be big, you know. I'm not really making anything this Thanksgiving. I've been hosting Thanksgiving for a while since we lived away, but this Thanksgiving I'm not doing shit. I'm just fucking chilling, dude. I'm just eating food and drinking beer. It's gonna be nice.
That is nice. That is great.
It's Thanksgiving with the in-laws, so I'm doing the in-law Thanksgiving, and even more extended because my brother-in-law is engaged now, so we're bringing in like even more, like, you know, it's a big day for incorporating the families.
Oh, that's fun. So you got the you know, your family early in October, and then you got her family in now.
I'm meeting like, you know, the sort of extended in-laws you get where it's like your wife's brother's wife's sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Sisters are younger. Yeah. I'll get there eventually.
Well, that's where we're at. Plus, I get to. It's great. It's great having, like, you know, everyone, like, you know, no one wants to talk to me about anything except for the fact that I'm having a kid, which is great because then I don't have to talk about anything else.
That is a great conversation topic.
Yeah, they're all just like, that's so great, and I'm just like, it is great, and that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been like I met a few people from high school in like Japan, and I'm just doing like every time I talk to them, I'm like, what the fuck, man? Why are you so anti-children? Why do you hate everything? What's wrong with you?
Well, it's because their lives suck, but it's like, you know, it's like if you're really just stomped out, you know, you've been fucking crushed, then you're like, then you think that like your experience of things is like the norm. So you're like, why would I want other people to experience like what I'm experiencing? This is the only life that's possible. Because like there's also the economic reality of the fact that everyone knows that they're like kind of downwardly mobile compared to the expectations of generations before us. So they're like, if I can't have more money and a nicer life for my kids than my parents gave me, and by nicer they mean like more comfortable economically, then it would be cruel to do it because this is effective altruism.
Yeah, that's true. I think these guys are going to actually end up being somewhat upwardly mobile, weirdly enough, but it's still fun.
Yeah, and then they'll have kids when they're like 35. They'll have weird little autistic kids.
That's true.
Many such cases, though. Like it's like people think it's really funny to me because I feel like I'm like having kids later than people I grew up with generally. Like a lot of them like had kids like right out of high school and things like that. But like I'm having kids at like 28, and I just feel like, you know, like kind of middle of the road. But like it's like pretty abnormal actually. Like people are acting like we're very young, and I'm just like, we're not young at all. Like,
yeah, it's nutty. It's really nutty.
yeah, it's like my grandparents had kids when they were 19. This isn't young at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, no, I wish I was fucking having kids right now. That'd be really fun. I don't know.
That's mostly what I think about, honestly. I don't know. I'm like, I'm contemplating getting a real job because I don't know if this is enough. And I mostly just care about having kids now, honestly.
I
Like,
mean, the
figured it
breweries
out,
have it.
but
But
I might work at
yeah.
a brewery. That would be fun.
I mean, I went to the bookstore the other day, as I do, and I bought like a really nice illustrated copy of Tanglewood Tales. And anytime I buy books like that, I'm like, oh, whenever I have kids, they're gonna look at these pretty little Edmund Dulac
Yeah, I think about that
illustrations.
too. I think about that too. I honestly do. Like, that was one of the things we did when we were moving our books. We were like, well, these books are like ultimately for our kids at the end of the day. Like, that's who's gonna have them.
Yeah, no, I mean that's how I've been building my library. I mean, certain things like I'm probably not going to read now, but it's like I'll read it to a child,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's and I've been looking more at the illustrated book section for that reason. Like I want to get like a nice illustrated Poe.
What's really
I've
funny
been
to me, what's been funny to me this whole time is like how all these people who are like abortion activists or whatever, they're like all about it. They're all about it. They think that the Republicans are coming to, change the Supreme Court and, steal their birth control or whatever. At the same time, they'll describe like my child in the womb as a being, as a person, right? Like, and they have since
yeah.
before they would recognize it legally. But in interpersonal relations, it'd be extremely rude not to recognize that this person exists, right? Like, because actually in the womb they hear things, they listen to things. Like, she likes music. She like kicks around when we play music, like and that's why like babies come out crying in the accent of their parents, because they can actually hear things, like she does when the cat is around.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so beautiful.
It's so wild, yeah.
Well, make sure not to play any of that degenerate Playboy Cardi around her.
Oh
So.
no, I would never do that. Only the finest Mozart and Beethoven
Yeah.
for baby geniuses, baby Einsteins. That's the correct eugenic way to raise a child to become a polymath.
My parents got me on that shit, actually. Yeah.
I love that idea where it's like, well, you don't have to do anything actively, but if you whatever the child passively consumes will ultimately form them. Because it's like long ago, parents like have like outmoded like their roles really to like the television, to like the sort of to society or whatever. So now it's sort of like yeah, like whatever, you just got to let them, you put the parental blocks on, you let them you delimit their free zone, and you like only have the right things there, and then they'll be fine, they'll figure it out themselves. But that's not actually how it works. It's like it's an active process.
Yeah, I mean, you have to like hyper construct the library. I mean, that's what I'm doing with my like books, and then once I get enough money to get a fucking like a little bit more of a place, I'll get a little server.
But also, like, you have to be open-minded, because your kids aren't going to like all the things you do or even have the same proclivities. They're going to be distinct beings who'll have their own interests.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I'm not,
So it's sort of like, I think it's sort of like funny when it's like, oh, well, I don't listen to classical music, but I'm going to play classical music for the baby because I heard it makes them smart.
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny.
I heard this Disney Channel show is really good for their development.
Yeah.
Psychologist told me. Psychologist told me that the Disney Corporation really has the best interest for my child.
Yeah. This kid's book was peer reviewed by a committee of sociologists.
And it's like How to Give a Mouse a Pancake.
Yeah. Oh, that book's propaganda. You can't read that one to a kid.
Sharing is good, actually.
But it's Thanksgiving, man. Are you cooking anything? What are you cooking?
Well, so my sisters are over in New York for some reason. I don't really understand why. But it's just me and my parents. So my mom's actually cooking an entire turkey. And I'm just like, let me handle like mashed potatoes, because I actually know how to make mashed potatoes. And I think I might make a tomato soup. And my mom wants me to make guacamole. So I don't know. It's like LA Jew Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, Christmas we eat Chinese food, bro. Like this is just how it is.
It is what it is. It's like that. Yeah. No, there's many such many descriptions of this in the annals of televisual comedy.
My Thanksgiving is not really much of a Hawthorne story. It's much more of a
Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say Curb Your Enthusiasm, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's like me being like, "Why don't you eat the dark meat?" And she's like, "Well, it's dark meat. I don't know. That sounds strange." I'm like, "Well, what's wrong with you?" It seems a little childish. I don't know.
Do you guys do cranberry sauce? Do you get the cranberry sauce from the can?
We used to, but my mom started making it sometimes. But
Oh,
I have
nice.
no clue what she's doing. My last two Thanksgivings were at my girlfriend's house.
Oh,
So
word.
yeah, so it's been a while since I've actually been. It might be the last three. Oh no! Like most of the time, I would just be up in NorCal, like on a fucking farm, and it would be like a big Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, oh, Mage,
Yeah,
I could talk to you forever, but I got
no, I know.
another
I'm not.
request here.
I
So,
let him on. Let him on. Don't kick me off. I'll leave myself because
uh,
it
uh,
like fucks it up.
okay, yeah. Peace, man. Oh wait, this person disappeared. I was gonna add
What the
you.
fuck?
Oh, there they are. Oh, I'm gonna go with we got Cardi Marks, Playboy Cardi Marks.
Hello.
What's up? What up, dude?
Hey. Happy Thanksgiving. Congratulations on your kid. I just wanted to ask,
Oh,
what
happy
what do you think
thanks.
of Basquiat?
He's all right. I like Basquiat. He's okay. I mean, it's not like as like a stylist or whatever. I think he was kind of I don't know, it's like he died young, so now it's like sort of like he's like a big like money laundering enterprise, if that makes sense, because like he made a
Yeah.
lot of work, and like he was very like he made like a brand for himself with his association with like Warhol and things like that, so he became sort of like a fashion brand. You know what I mean? So it's like I think his art's good. I like Basquiat, but at the same time, I think it's like kind of like every museum's now like, and we have our Basquiat or whatever, and it's just like some fucking thing he like doodled because he made so much different work that it's like they tried to present they wanted to value him the same way they did with like Picasso, where there's so much work and it's also valuable. It's very like it's a big monetary enterprise to like produce a new like world famous artist or something, right? Where it's like you have all these people invested in it, like who bought these things, and they're like, okay, so we're gonna, and especially if they die young, then you're in control of effectively like their legend.
Yeah. He also has some notebooks that I just found out he had. Yeah. So
I'm sure that's
probably
like the
gonna read
weird thing
those.
about like an artist, right? Is like you have all these vultures that just like take apart in like a kind of perverted sense where it's like, oh yeah, so like everything that he's ever done now is like going to be up for sale. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
like Basquiat's shoe, that he wore in 7th grade, and it's like, oh, this will be donate. This will be a charity auction. It'll be in some glass case somewhere.
Yep. Well, thank you for your service, Logo.
Oh,
You enjoy
thanks,
your
man.
day.
Peace, man. All right, we got Calvin. What's up, Calvin?
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, man?
Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy thanks, man.
Big fan of all the stuff you put out, but I have one point of contention. In past spaces, you've talked about the Pacific Northwest and your disdain for the Pacific Northwest as a hub of anarchy and defense institutions. And on the surface level, I think you're right with like Joint Base Lewis McChord and all of the Air Force stuff on Whidbey Island. But yeah, exactly. But as a native son of the Pacific Northwest, I kind of want to defend the place I live and maybe share a story or two about this place and why I think
I think it's honestly not different because if you said the same thing, if you were like New England is just a finance, insurance, real estate hub where Boston banks are extracting shit and it's like all just pharmaceutical corporations and now casinos, I'd be like, yeah, I know. So it's sort of like the same thing. I'm sure you have like there's a lot to it beyond that, but I'm saying like that's what it is in the same way. Like New England right now is how I described it, but I also still love New England.
Totally. Maybe I'll recommend a book then. I recently came across this book called Kinsey Photographer, which is a collection of photography from the 1890s of a guy who worked as a photographer at a general store in I think it was Sedro-Woolley in Washington, and he just went around photographing kind of scenes of daily life in the Pacific Northwest, and they're incredible. It's like people living in these huge cedar stumps and building these enormous railroad trusses in the middle of nowhere, and kind of all of this strange anachronistic industry appearing in like the like almost like ice age mega flora and fauna landscape of the Pacific Northwest. Is really cool to look at.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. They are cool. Like there's a lot of cool stuff to that history. It's just I mean, it's like vital to the whole like California cycle and things like that. Like America, like extending from the east to the west, kind of population transfers almost linearly. So like the Pacific Northwest has a lot of Yankees over there, or like we've got like Portland as on both sides. There's a Portland, Maine as well.
Totally. Yeah.
So there is like a parallel to it.
Yeah, for sure. This feels kind.
I have a lot of friends there, so I'll end up there eventually.
You think so?
Not forever, but I mean, I'll end up in like visiting at some point.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been thinking. I read the Tempest recently, and I've been thinking about that a lot in the context of like America and the place I live. And I love the way that the Tempest is able to capture kind of this idea of magic and gods with a lowercase g, like placed in order underneath God Almighty. I got a lot out of reading that recently.
Have you read Prospero's America?
No.
It's a good book. It's kind of about like how Western Mass, like the Connecticut colony and things like that, were founded. It's about like the Puritan alchemical like organizations there.
Oh,
because like
interesting.
the Tempest is tied to all of that. Like Prospero is really like John Dee, but he's like also like De Vere, because they were like similar figures. But that's like one of the late works.
Cool.
The Tempest.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check out that book. That sounds really cool. I think it
is cool.
I think the reason I picked up the Tempest actually was this book, The Machine in the Garden, which was all about like the American pastoral. Here, I'm pulling it off of my bookshelf right now. I really enjoyed this. Yeah. The subtitle is Technology and the Pastoral Ideal in America by Leo Marx. It was really cool. It definitely like kind of shifted my perspective.
This looks good.
Yeah.
I definitely would, if I saw this, and I'm looking at the 1967 mass market paperback edition of it online. If I ever saw this ever in a used bookstore, I would have picked it up for sure.
Yeah, it's a fun read, and there's some cool little.
Yeah, this looks pretty good. I'll have to read this one. I've been reading Veblen, and I've been reading this history of the early church, like martyrdom specifically, which is really cool, and Hawthorne and stuff.
Oh, nice. I'm not really familiar with Veblen. Can you maybe say more?
Veblen is really good. So Veblen, like Hudson, like Michael Hudson, really comes out of like the Veblenian school of economics, because Veblen is like he has like some criticism of Marx, or like how Marx is interpreted later on, like because he's writing in like 1910s, 1920s, etc. Like late 19th century, early 20th century, and his whole thing is like institutional economics, where it's like he's describing rent more so. Like he goes off of like the later Marx stuff. Like he believes the economy is like effectively just governance, right? In a way. So that's what his interpretation of things. He like there's the terms like Veblen goods. Like let me read the definition of a Veblen good.
Okay, cool.
A Veblen good is a good for which demand increases as the price increases. So this doesn't really make sense in a lot of economic theories, right? Where if you increase price, then the demand should go down. But actually, there's times, like marketing wise, especially, that if you increase the price of something such that it's no longer like an affordable thing, like a sort of middle class, like consumer item, but now it's like a luxury product, you can actually increase the demand for it with marketing.
Okay.
Things like that. So he's taking into account like a lot more of the how the economy actually works, like in a more consumer society and things like that. So the Veblenian economics, interesting path to follow. Michael Hudson wrote his thesis on Veblen,
Okay.
and Veblen had he has this great essay about the establishment of the financial trust being in Viking slavery corporations.
Oh,
That
interesting.
this was so Veblen rocks.
That's
I think.
interesting.
Plus, he's really obsessed with the question of like natural selection. Darwin and Marx is like his specific like thing. So he's also talking a lot about like he has like less purchase these days because he's talking about like the Aryans, like the Indo-Europeans, etc. And the development of economy over that scale.
What would Veblen say about FOMO? I think about like the digital gambling and in crypto and Web3 spaces.
Well, FOMO is what's induced. FOMO is what's induced by conspicuous consumption, right? Because like you're like if to be able to conspicuously consume, i.e., like kind of like excess, like basically just waste money, blow money, right? Blow your time or money openly is a way of showing that you are a member of like the leisure class, like you're part of the elite. If you can blow your money, and and it's nothing to you, and you can show it off, right? So then if you have FOMO, it's because you are actually like self-consciously in a way of a lower class because you're not capable of doing that thing, right? You're like, I missed out on going to that concert because I couldn't afford to, or whatever, etc.
Yeah. I think I'll have to check out Veblen more to like fully understand.
Yeah, I mean, he's like he writes like economics textbooks basically, so it's like hard to wrap up in a little package, but he's definitely worth reading.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for me. Thanks for chatting.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
All right, we got Bobby Shirts. Bobby Shirts. Happy Thanksgiving, Paul. What are you? Bobby Shirts. Bobby whatever. What's up? Bobby, you're up. I don't know what I can do for you until you let me know. So you gotta let me know what I can do for you. Bobby Shirts. I don't know. Not saying much, man. Yep, your hand's raised. I see. What's up, dude? I'm gonna give you like 10 seconds, or I'm gonna move on. All right, we're gonna go on to the next person. Sorry, Bobby Shirts. What's up, LA hat avatar?
What's up?
What's up, man?
Hey.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey,
man.
happy Thanksgiving. How's it going?
Pretty good, man. What can I do for you?
What's your take on Plymouth Rock?
Oh, like the rock itself,
Yeah,
because like it's not the real rock.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the real rock, it's a representative
Right.
of the
it's
rock.
a representative of the rock. But I don't know. I'm sure you've been there, right, Plymouth?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of I'm from there actually, and it's like a joke, everyone kind of like has this complex because people go there and then they pwn the rock, they make fun of the rock because it is kind of pathetic down there. But I feel like it's kind of beautiful, sitting there in that well, you know what I'm talking about?
It's the same way. I think everyone has a relation when there's like tourism within your area to the sites of that tourism, where you sort of have an antagonistic relation to it, but at the same time sort of feel like it's more yours than anyone else's.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's true. I mean, the same could be said. I don't know. Did you ever go to the like recreation village there? Like it's like the Plymouth Plantation.
Yeah.
Well, they just renamed it actually because I think
they got rid of Plantation.
They got rid of Plantation. It's kind of because I feel like it used to be. I don't know what happened to that place. It's kind of a ghost town now. They used to have like a lot of like actors,
living
living
history
his,
stuff.
yeah. But and also all of the Wampanoag people right now, I think, are not. They're like refusing to work, or I forget what it is. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, it's like a tourist site. It's a little colonial Disney World thing for school field trips.
yeah, no, it's like a bizarre. I mean,
Subsidized by NGOs in the state.
yeah, it's weird that I don't know, because I feel like on the topic of Thanksgiving, when you're like from that area, uh, it's like, you know, it's there. It's like you're actually on the grounds. It's like a part of your like active history or whatever. And I don't know. Did you feel like do you feel like it seems like we get like way more of a like it's not necessarily accurate or interesting, but more of an emphasis on like early colonial like history than like any other part of the country. It seems like in like a
Yeah,
Massachusetts
well,
public
I
school
think
system.
well, there's basically like 3 textbook manufacturers, right? So there's the California textbooks, the Texas textbooks, and then there's the New England textbooks, which are mostly run out of like Cambridge, like in Boston.
Right.
So we get those, and it's like focused more on like the earlier part because it's like, you know, we're here, you know, we're in it.
Right, right.
We're like, oh, it's like, you know, being like, that's about us.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we're here. Whereas like, you know, in California, they do a lot of focus on like the 49ers and things like that. And then in Texas, they focus more on that. Like everyone, like the type of regional histories to America exist in that way. Because we don't really have like even a consensus narrative for America as a whole.
Right.
If you think about it, like we don't really have anything. We just have like these competing visions of things. But we don't have like a consensus understanding of like what's going on. Like that's what makes America unique. It's in bad ways and good ways as well. Like we always have like an openness to revolutionizing our understanding of ourselves, I suppose. But at the same time, that going into its excess means that there's like effectively no unity to anything. Like
Right.
there's nothing everyone can agree on.
Right. Right. Did you feel like when you were like a kid, did you feel drawn to like a particular part of American history? Like, was it just like the,
I mean, I
events
was
that were
like, I
relevant to
wanted to
you?
know about here. Like, I always
Yeah.
was interested most in like where I was from in and of itself. So, and like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by old things. Like my friends, I have friends whose houses are older than the country, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
you can tell like the stairs are all like warped things, you know, they have like the old glass in it sometimes even. There's a lot
Yeah.
of like really old stuff around here. So I was always like immersed in the history of it just by being alive because it's like, it's
Yeah.
all around.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I noticed I as a kid, I feel like I didn't care about like, I wasn't as drawn to history about like the 1800s America or like frontier or like Civil War really. But then as soon as like I live like in California now, and now it's just that it's like present, like at least
Yeah.
somewhat. Like it now, it's like it's been more of an interest to me like than ever, and I guess that's just like everybody in America or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's like, but you also get like a new perspective when you, I don't know, like I've moved around, like I've moved to Texas and California, which I think are like the other like biggest hubs of cultural identity. Like Texas is like a big identity, right? And so is
Yeah.
California. California sort of like another one. I guess it's like really like New York is like kind of the hub now. Like New England doesn't have so much of a cultural power the way that it used to.
Yeah.
But it's really like New York, Texas, California. Florida is trying to throw in its hat to becoming Texas 2 or something, an extension of Texas. I don't know. But those seem like the big cultural zones in America. I guess there's the big Midwest, but that seems to me like New York too.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you were talking about this one time on one of the spaces, but like, what do you think? I mean, I guess it's just like, I don't know. It's too large of an answer. Have you seen like, is there any like, like movies of no, like, did you see First Cow? Have you heard of that movie?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you should watch it actually. I mean, there's not like many American directors I think who are like have like any like historical perspective at all. Like in that, I would see like I don't know. Is there any like recent examples of like depictions of like a period of an American history that you've like appreciated, like in either movies or definitely not really any literature or television or anything like that? Does anything come to mind? It's like so sparse, I feel like.
There's I mean, The Witch is pretty good, but it's like, you know, it's very
It's isolated too.
yeah. There's not that much that really takes place in that
Yeah.
time period. Like,
Well,
there's a
I've
lot
been-
of like
yeah.
bullshit too. Like, you know, you could say like what is it? Handmaid's Tale or something is supposed to be like inspired by that time period, but it's really
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
No,
I don't know. We don't have a lot about American. We don't really make movies about our own history anymore. We make movies about our present dealings in the world.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Well, we don't
that's-
even have like
yeah.
I've been talking about how with people about how we don't even shoot like location and photography like in the majority of America anymore. There aren't even movies where it's like you watch like movies from the like 70s and 80s and it's like, you know, they're actually like there's location photography like in the West or like in small towns in America, and it's like that's you don't even see those things on screen generally anymore, like regardless of whether there's even any like sort of content or historical content of value. You don't even like literally see imagery of America, I feel like, in a lot of like recent films. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, First Cow's pretty good. I'd recommend.
Oh, I guess do you see Little Women? Little Women
No,
is a great,
I actually didn't
great
see
New
Little
England
Women.
tale.
I want to see that.
I don't know if the latest adaptation is the best one. It's been adapted millions and millions of times.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of like our like Jane Austen.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But I like Little Women. I think it's better than Jane Austen because it's about like more working class people. Like Jane Austen's about like rich people.
Right. Right. I'm trying to think. I feel like it's so hard for anything to come to mind. I mean,
I have tons of ideas for things, but not a lot of them have ever actually.
What's an idea?
Like, I want like a Mel Gibson directed like movie about King Philip's War.
Okay, yeah, that would be.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of shit that I want.
Yeah. I think you said. I feel like I was resonating with you. You were mentioning that there's like basically no American epic, like, that takes place in like 1600s America.
There are old books
at all. No, I mean
movie.
Yeah, if we're talking specifically about movies, or
we've
whatever.
like abandoned it. Like basically, that's sort of like been coded as like, oh, like Ronald Reagan cited John Winthrop or something. You know what I mean? Where it's like all of these things are now identified as like like all traditional American forms or like older American forms. Thanksgiving, the red, white, and blue flag. You know, all of these things like whatever, the apple pie, all of the basic shit of Americana. Right, all of this is like on that side, and now we have the new America, rainbow flags, diversity. You know what I mean? It's like that's like a kind of affected Native American tradition. Like, oh, we're doing potlucks. It's not Thanksgiving, and you know, it's Indigenous Peoples Day now, and etc. So that's like we're living through this time where there's like this concerted effort to like basically recreate the American socium by creating like new traditions, new holidays, new everything.
Right. What do you think? Why is it that like it seems like in American academia or something, it's like there's not really, I don't know, there's just no emphasis on like American like philosophical thought, like Emerson and like.
Well,
I feel
because
like
you don't have to focus on it if it's all bad. If it's all essentially bad, if you know that it's all essentially bad, like a priori or whatever, an assumption of your basic worldview is that it was all essentially bad anyway, then what would you learn about it? You can learn, and you have to make sure you learn that it's all essentially bad, and you learn all of the ways in which it's essentially bad. But it's much easier just to not read it at all in that case.
Yeah.
So why bother?
Right.
And besides, there's all but a bunch of dead white men anyway. And look, it was all essentially bad because it got us to here. America is evil. So none of it was good. Yeah. Therefore, we're going to talk about how we can make Marvel movies better.
Right. Yeah. Are you a Cassavetes fan?
Cassavetes is okay. He's all right. I had a roommate in college who was like really into Cassavetes, so I watched a good amount of Cassavetes movies. But he's like a little French new wave for me, if that makes sense. I'm not like I don't know. I'm particular in the kind of movies I like.
That's interesting. He comes off his French New Wave for you. You know, he
Yeah,
kind
like
of
kind of
invented the
like
French New Wave.
where it was like I'm not putting that much effort into it, but like my lack of effort is like an artful laxity or something, you know, where
Yeah.
it's just like a lot of it's like the movie like Coffee and Cigarettes, like some of Jarmusch type stuff where it's like this is just a podcast kind of, you know what I mean? Like it's not
Right.
but I'm more of like I like hyper minimalism and like ultra maximalism. So I'd rather watch like a Tarkovsky movie about uh the wind blowing wheat in a field than
Right.
or I'd rather watch some like John Carpenter style like spectacle, you know what I mean?
Right. You're not into the like sort of like chaotic, like sort of Cassavetes, like I don't know, like it's I guess I don't know. Would you describe? I guess you're right. It's not exactly minimal or maximalist.
It's supposed to be naturalistic, but I feel like that's always the most affected thing. Like naturalism is never like natural. Like a
Right, but
real
I wouldn't.
naturalism
I don't know if
is
he was.
artful.
Have you seen Love Streams?
I don't think I've seen that one. I've only seen a few, and it was
Oh,
years
you should
ago.
watch Love Streams
So
because it's like
I'm sure he has
incredibly
good ones.
not naturalistic. It's like kind of anti-representational or something.
I'm sure he
Like
has good ones. The other thing with me
yeah.
though is that I hate watching movies by myself. So I
Oh,
always have
okay.
to. It's not just convincing me, but I then have to convince someone else to watch it with me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel that. That's fair.
And that's always
Do you feel like
impossible.
do you actually feel are you interested in movies like, or do you kind of just feel like
Yeah, I mean, I used to make movies. I mean, I wanted to go into film when I was younger. Like I
okay,
was gonna that was one of my goals. But then when I was actually making making stuff, like participating in the process, I realized that I really hate uh collaborative creativity, I guess.
right?
Because
Yeah,
like I'm always like, no, that's like a bad idea. Like, no, like it just should be what I want it to be. Like,
yeah,
trust me. So like
yeah,
I ended up being like, you know, the director, writer, editor of all the things. And then I was mostly just managing like I hate managing people. So I don't
yeah.
think I would do well in film.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's very difficult to find like I mean it's definitely possible, but like to have control of all those things and then also be in a place where you're comfortable. I mean that's why like I don't know if have you ever seen like any what they call like mumblecore films or anything like that?
Yeah. There's like Francis Ha and other things like
Yeah,
that.
well there's
Fucking
that's kind of
yeah.
like the more like I guess perverted ones of it,
I
but
feel like
there's
the
like
Louis C.K.'s TV show could be mumblecore. I would call it that.
yeah, yeah. That I think that's like kind of like that's inspired by that. There's like funny
Yeah.
haha, like and
Yeah,
Andy
yeah, yeah.
Zadowski.
No, that's just what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Where it's like that to me is like the middle. Like I wanted to go one way or the other. Like I think Atlanta was better. Did you watch
yeah, yeah.
Atlanta?
No,
Because
no.
like Atlanta leans
Yeah,
fully into like being formalistic.
I
But
agree. I agree that mumblecore. Like I'm not like I appreciate those films because of like I kind of like respect that they're doing it for like such low resources and there's like some like sophisticated stuff going on in there. But I would rather like push past that to have like it's not just interesting because it's like uh you know against like conventional film like language or whatever
yeah,
but
I just
yeah I
got
don't know
like there's the big indie. I think I'm just a little cynical due to like the indie movie boom or whatever, and now we just have all of these like kind of like simpering indie movies where it's people are just kind of like if I just like filmed myself it would be a movie, you know. This is like it's like Girls, you know, like Lena Dunham's Girls, where it's like, oh my god, our lives are like a movie, let's make that
yeah
movie
yeah
into a movie. I hate
no
that.
yeah that I do think I totally agree with you that that's kind of that kind of stuff like because like even within the mumblecore like most of it's kind of garbage. There's only like a couple that I would say like had like some sort of like real like
Yeah, yeah.
coherent vision to it um
Also
but
like it's kind of like second wavy because it's like they already had that with like most of the time they're not better than like Richard Linklater's Slackers,
no
you know what I mean? Like
no
because people I don't know they need more. There's not like back then it was more meaningful to do something like that, but now everyone does that to themselves all the time. So it's like, why do we need people documenting these things? It's sort of like, you know, I'm watching this TV show on FX, right? Because it's like new and it was like buzzed about or whatever, so I checked it out. And it's like just like about like, you know, like divorced guy in New York, etc. It's kind of like a basic like social novel, sort of
Yeah.
presented in like in a way that like Anna Karenina is or whatever. But I just don't care. Like, you know, I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, this is like well put together or whatever. Like, yeah, it's like well structured, etc. But like the content of it is ultimately like boring to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think we need films with like more of like a you know, back to like sort of an exaggerate, like taking some like lessons from like the mumblecore or whatever, but like I don't know, just an exaggerated, like more direct, like formal, like structure to it or something, you know. I mean, and I don't know, it's but it's interesting to me. Yeah, I
There's
mean,
like there's so much potential. I don't know. I think things are gonna get better on the art front. I feel like we went through like a very bad decade for art, which was the 2010s. But
yeah,
now it's like kind of like, you know, you can even see like how all of the culture war shit or whatever has kind of burnt everyone out, and now no one really cares. No one really cares. We're back to no one really giving a fuck
yeah,
anymore. So
yeah. No, I think I'm kind of hopeful. I feel like there's stuff brewing, in that
yeah, I
sphere.
think so. There's like, you know, I think like White Lotus, for instance, is like a really great work of art right now.
Hmm.
Like it's really
Yeah,
well done. I would say Succession is really well done
yeah,
also.
yeah. No, I like both. I haven't seen that. You like the second season of White Lotus? I only saw the first.
Yeah, no, it's really good so far. I mean,
Okay,
you know,
yeah,
it's still coming out, but yeah, there's like good stuff happening. I don't know. I think that like a lot of people like complaining about the state of the arts is sort of anachronistic again because it's sort of like, yeah, we went through that era. Everything sucked really bad. Like there was like almost nothing good for like 5 years, but
yeah,
now it's like things are getting better. Like that, like
yeah,
because these are the things that are getting praised, or things that are like not taking that are like kind of popping the bubble of a lot of the 2010s ideology at this point. Like people are kind of more comfortable now making fun of it than they were when it was new, you know. So
right.
like taking a stand on it back then is like unconscionable, but nowadays like things that are just like MDE or whatever are just like what's popular.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I honestly think that there's been like I've been surprised that there's been at least a couple new movies that have come out this year that have like not been terrible, and some have been actually really
There's like a
good.
few movies that I want to see right now that are like out that I haven't seen yet. So like yeah, like there's actually like a lot of good stuff coming out again, I think.
Yeah,
Musically too, I feel like musically things have developed in a very crazy way lately. Like there seems to be like a new wave of like genre mashing kind of,
yeah,
you know.
no, for sure. Um, have you seen This is the last thing I'll say actually. There's a because do you feel like there's kind of not a quintessential Thanksgiving film, right? I mean, there's this
Huh.
movie Day Trippers. Have you seen that? But it's like
Yeah, that's not really Thanksgiving. I'm trying to think though.
it's
There's a
not
lot of
really
movies that have
Thanksgiving vibes. It
Thanksgiving
just
in it.
happens to be the day after Thanksgiving or something. But I don't know. It wasn't really a good example.
Yeah, there's not really that many. We need a good Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah. No, it's true.
There's not really that many, honestly.
I mean, it's the same It's the same issue we're discussing with. There's not like there's no like movies about like puritanical or America anyways. So it's like, but also there's no like modern movies where, because it's not even a thing. Like it's not even a thing to like put out dumb like studio movies around Thanksgiving. Like like
Yeah,
there's still
no, there's
like
not even like an
there's still
animated
a
turkey
slate of
comedy.
Christmas
You'd
movies
think there'd
every
be like a
year.
DreamWorks animated turkey movie coming out,
Yeah,
but no, there's
yeah,
not.
yeah. So the Great American Thanksgiving film is yet to be made and should be made. So
That's a
we'll
good
leave it with
point.
that. But thanks for talking to me, Logo.
Yeah, for sure.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too, man.
All right.
I'm thinking about that though. Why isn't there a good Thanksgiving movie? Let's see. What are there any Thanksgiving movies? I think it's because it would be immediately controversial. It'd be like, what? How do you even deal with Thanksgiving? Let's see. What does Rotten Tomatoes say the best Thanksgiving? Oh, there's the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving movie, I suppose. It's calling Spider-Man the first Spider-Man a Thanksgiving movie. I don't know how you get away with that. The Ice Storm is what I was going to say. The Ice Storm is about Thanksgiving break,
like the whole time, and it has like people coming back from like school and things like that. The Ice Storm is a really good movie. I recommend The Ice Storm as a Thanksgiving movie. Are there any good ones though? Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. Alice's Restaurant. I guess Alice's Restaurant is the one to go with. It's got Arlo in it anyway. That's like the Thanksgiving song, so you could watch the movie, I suppose. I'm just seeing a bunch of movies I've never heard of before that are very poorly rated when I look up Thanksgiving movies. They're calling Paul Blart Mall Cop a Thanksgiving movie. Okay. I think that's a stretch. Jack and Jill, a Thanksgiving movie. Okay. That's nonsense. Oh, we got Bobby Shirts. Bobby Shirts. What's up, Bobby Shirts? Do you got your mic working?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm gonna keep it quick. I wanted to see if you had any kind of easily readable, because I'm not that great of a reader, recommendations on something I heard you on a podcast talk about, which is just like a kind of phrase I've heard a lot recently, which is like rent extraction. But it was applied to like content creators, and I was curious about that.
Oh, so it's like, think about what is intellectual property, right? Like, how do you make money with intellectual property? You charge people usage rights to it, right? So
Oh, of
like
course. You're just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's
collecting
what you meant
rent.
by that. For
That's what
sure.
it is.
I also think there's not a lot of good Thanksgiving movies because it's not easy to sell something like a film to like for an event where people are not spending time with screens.
That's
And the
true.
only thing that
You wouldn't go see a Thanksgiving movie on Thanksgiving because you'd be doing
absolutely
Thanksgiving.
not. Yeah, it's just it's facilitated by the
But there's
market.
Christmas movies.
Well, because that's your home, and it makes sense. The only like content that I think of when I think of Thanksgiving on a television that you could watch at home would be football, which is just kind of
Yeah.
positioned by marketing because men don't cook or try, and they're not trying to connect with one another. That's why.
Hey man, not in my family, let me tell you.
Much love to you.
We
Yeah, appreciate that. I'm right
men
there with
cook
you.
it all the time.
Yeah, actually,
With I
I'm
remember deep frying the turkey, dude. Come on.
okay. I'm about to go do the same. Appreciate your energy. Thank you.
Yeah, man. If you were looking for something to read on like
Oh,
rent extraction,
yes,
etc.,
yes.
I'd recommend Michael Hudson, obviously.
Michael
But if you
Hudson.
read Super Imperialism, his book Super
Ooh,
Imperialism is basically the textbook for how the American state still
I'm gonna
works.
write that.
He wrote it. He wrote it. He worked for like Herman Cain, like in God, like fucking like he worked all over the place, like in like what you would call like the deep state, actually, like or worked for like Chase
Herman
Manhattan and things
Cain,
like that.
the pizza guy.
No, the Rand Corp guy.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Herman Kahn,
There's
I
not
think
enough
is how you
names.
pronounce it.
Um,
Yeah.
right.
But Michael Hudson explains everything. You
Okay.
can learn everything from Michael Hudson.
Michael.
J is for junk economics, super imperialism, killing the host. Killing the host might explain it the most because it just explains how rents like effectively destroy an economy. That's what the early capitalists were saying. Even like classical economics is based on the idea that you want to like eliminate rents because they're inefficient, like economically.
That makes sense. Well, what are you trying to solve for? People having discretionary income or like destroying an
For
economy?
everything, just for everything. Imagine if you didn't have to pay licensing fees on anything. Isn't
Yeah.
it more efficient when it's like everything's pirated effectively, right? Isn't that like ultimately what we all came to the agreement on, that is like more efficient to pirate everything? And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to make it more efficient to stream things. You just have to pay, membership fee to this thing, right? But then all of the intellectual property is now siloed off into these different things. So if you can't actually just watch anything you want, like with a single fee or whatever, you have to have like multiple memberships or whatever. So then it ends up just being more efficient to pirate everything anyway.
Yeah, we've gone through that like moment in the last 10 years. I remember thinking that we were overserved by these streaming services, and they've slowly kind of made it so we have to stack them in a cost that is more than cable otherwise. And subsequently, during the increased streaming, there's less availability of content to BitTorrent, I found, in the last 10 years, and I just kind of avoided it with friends that are getting knocks on their door or email box by the FBI.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, they're policing it way more because, like, honestly, America's whole economy is rent extraction for intellectual property. Like,
of
that's like
course.
what we're,
And the
you
war
know what I mean?
machine.
It's like, yeah, because that's how what software is too, right? Software should be free.
Yeah.
It technically is. I mean, I can go download Ableton right now, but I'm supposed to pay a licensing fee.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I Autodesk, the final Adobe Creative Cloud, but right before it, I think it was like number 6. I remember catching all of that before I kind of stopped using those softwares altogether. Actually, I thought of another question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So something I've been thinking about when I think of you is how I'm personally in kind of a philosophical dead zone of like exited liberal ideology in a lot of kind of egalitarian ways, but still have been focusing more on Marx and some interesting kind of untold parts of American history. But listening to you, I've thought about this concept of like the experience of being religious versus I forget what the other word is. And I was curious because I feel like jealous of that because I do not have the same relationship with God.
Faith?
Yeah, faith. And I was thinking, am I just projecting this, or do a lot of atheist, agnostic liberals, are they kind of like unknowingly jealous, or am I just
I
projecting?
think a lot of them are resentful of the fact that there are people who are have faith in the good of the world, right? Because they really want to have faith in that, but
Mm-hmm.
all they have is doubt that that's true. And they're constantly looking for like an assurance that it is the case, but they can't do. But like the actual one that would be meaningful, right? Like, you know, real faith is like beyond their grasp because it doesn't convince their reason. It doesn't convince their intellect. They still doubt it, you know, with their reasoning faculty.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, I think I'm part of that group, but I'm also kind of in this like Lagrange point, to use a silly phrase, where like I don't have a
I would say
gravitational
you got to
pull.
read poetry, dude. Like, it's not about
Poetry.
philosophy. Philosophy is idolatry. Philosophy is
Mm.
idolatry. Remember that.
Ah,
Okay? Because you're building these constructs with the reasoning faculty. Like, if you like have you gotten into like Kant and stuff, or like
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Had my moments.
yeah, so it's like ultimately like we end up in the philosophy of language where we're at right now, right? That's the biggest thing in philosophy is the philosophy of language because Wittgenstein completely BTFO'd the analytics. So now they're got to like figure out a way to figure out the like rational structure behind language, which is why Chomsky is so
Mm-hmm.
influential, right? Because of Chomsky and grammar and things like that. They're trying to turn language into like a cybernetically predictable thing, which is what the internet is also servicing, right? We're also training these data sets for like word processing basically, right? Like
Write me a
figuring out,
composition based on a prompt.
yeah, having AIs being capable of writing things and communicating, etc., and like having kind of automated surveillance by like doing sentiment analysis of people's produced speech and text, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's part of my job. That's it's something I don't have faith in personally in the longer term. I think that
Yeah,
poetry advice is right, square on. I'm kind of a
poetry
maximalist.
effectively is like the exact opposite of that. Poetry is the type of speech which renders that stuff disarmed in a way, which it does to the reasoning faculty
Huh.
itself, right? Because it's like the same thing. If you're speaking in like these metaphorical or like analogical, anagogic terms, like we're talking about faith in God, what does that mean to the computer? What does that mean to the algorithm? It's just
Hmm.
words. It's
Right.
just like
There's
those are
no,
sentiments,
yeah.
positive sentiment.
It's an entirely other plane that you kind of have to have a body to experience. Um, Gosh, well, thank you. I'm probably gonna stick around, but I want to give other people a chance to talk.
For sure, man. Yeah. I would say you just gotta, read the scripture, man. I always point that way.
Hmm.
Read poetry and things like that. That's where the real philosophy is coming from. Ultimately, every philosopher is articulating an imagined portrait of the world of things, and this is informed by their poetic imaginary, right? Like how they imagine the world is as like a drama in a way that's outside them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so the
Appreciate
most
you.
efficient way of discussing things on that terms ends up being like these sort of theological terminologies or whatever, being for like I was talking to the Luciferian, I have that pinned, but
Oh,
he was
yeah,
saying
yeah.
like I was thankful, like I felt a thankfulness, and it's like you experience this thing, and it's like, well, who do you attribute that to? Ends up being like the whole of your metaphysics. is like, how do you attribute, like, when you're just like thankful for being alive, like, who do you attribute that to? Like, with that thankfulness, where does it go? There has to be some you're hypothesizing some entity, like, instinctively, like, kind of beyond your rational faculties, or hypothesizing that this that you were thankful to something that could almost, in a way, understand that is the case.
Yeah, there's that philosopher that was like also kind of like a scientist, and he was trying to prove the existence of God. Like, if a ball is rolling, it's rolling because something else pushed it, and something pushed that before it.
Yeah, no,
And
that's just
at the
the
beginning is
unmoved
God.
mover. Like, there's like, you
Hmm.
can't have science, metaphysics, any of the things we've had without like the development ultimately of monotheism. Monotheism is just saying that there is like a unitary meaning to things, like that there is
Hmm.
a single truth that it upholds here and there and this and there and in that context and in this context, etc. But some people
Well,
have no faith in that. There's like, just, you never know. Nothing's, there's, everything's just whatever.
I wonder, is there any current poets that you'd recommend? I'm going to be at an airport later. Would they be there? Maybe.
I mean, I think the best poets today are musicians, like, when it comes to that, because it's like
Mm,
we've returned to a sort of a troubadour type of thing where, like, poetry for the page, right, originally is because you would like sing songs, like sonnets were originally like, troubadour songs way back in the day in the Middle Ages. We've sort of returned to that where our poets now is like Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan is like one of
hmm.
the greatest living poets, and he's literally like a Cathar troubadour, like.
Interesting.
That's where Dante really comes from, though. Like, really, literature comes from these like folk traditions. Dante was adapting these troubadour like folk songs and things like that. The structure of them, the structure of the sonnet, is like the structure of like a folk song. There's these types of
Right.
like song
Verse,
structures.
verse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. That's something to think
So it's like
about
we
for
have
me.
great poets. Like Kanye
Well,
West is a poet. You know what I mean? You can see the power of
right
poetry.
on.
But Kanye is like
Yeah,
one of is like
I
the
was
president.
I was going to sleep last night, and I just Kanye lyric from Through the Wire just started buzzing through my head, and I was like, where is this coming from? In the same hospital where Biggie Smalls died. I don't know if you know that verse. It's it's really
Yeah, yeah,
good
yeah.
stuff. I'd love to be able to reconcile my art and the artist with that as a Jewish person. I feel very weird about that. And someone who's
Well, the thing is,
lived
right,
in
is that
Jerusalem.
As a Christian, our interface with God is mediated through the tecton, the craftsman, the carpenter,
Hmm.
the artist, the poet, the man who spoke in parables. That's who
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
for me, it's all reconciled.
who do the Jews, who do we
It's never too
speak to
late, my
God through?
friend.
Oh, my great uncle was a Jew for Jesus, and then just like fell off a cliff, and then his wife died, and he found Judaism again. Maybe I'll go through that whole gamut, but I'll definitely give you a high five on the way through.
Word, man.
Um,
Well, it's been nice talking to you. I'm gonna go on to the next
Likewise.
person, man. Happy
Thanks, man.
thanks. All right. I'm gonna go with this boy exploded ... I don't think I've talked to you before. So what can I do for you?
Hello, Logo.
What's up?
Nothing much. I mean, speaking of Jews for Jesus, I kind of was wondering if you had any particular thoughts or notions about Simone Weil and her writing. You've been talking a lot about grace lately, and
Oh, she was the one who she was Simone, like Weil
yes,
Simone.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. People I've been compared to her a lot over time, I believe. Actually, way back in the day in like 2018, someone said that I was like the Simone Weil of frog Twitter.
No, I mean, for real, like, I would honestly place you two as like the kind of my primary media through which I've like rediscovered my faith in Christ. And I definitely see like poetic similarities between the two of you. Have you ever engaged with her
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, I've read some of it. I'm not like I wasn't like the thing is like I like it's like I agree with her probably on a lot of things. Like I don't really have any problems. So it's like it's hard to read sometimes people where you're like yeah, Like, yeah, I get it
For
already.
sure.
You know, like I'm like trying to like read like old, like I'm like, you know, I'm out here reading Welsh Chronicles these days. I'm not reading a lot of like I consider that almost contemporary.
No, for
So
sure. And she's kind of a philosopher and like gets positioned as like
yeah,
a mystic
she
as
also
well.
like she sort of like put herself in with the Catholics, and you know,
Yeah, I can.
I'm an American. You know, I don't want to deal with these Europeans and all
Old
of their
world,
drama.
right?
Yeah, I'm done with that. I don't care. Like that's the other thing is like part of being like a socialist online or whatever. You're supposed to like develop all of these like strong opinions on like things that happened in Germany in like the 19th century. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck.
MAGA communism now. Foreign
Yeah,
aid
exactly.
moratorium
I'm like,
now.
I'm an American. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about whether or not Rosa Luxemburg was right. I don't care. There's nothing to do with me.
It's Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving, bitches. This is communism. You
For
know?
real. For sure. No, it's great.
We're all gonna fucking sit around the round table like King Arthur and his knights, like the apostles and Christ. That's communism. I don't know what the fuck everyone else is talking about.
No, not for real. I'm looking forward to it.
Beautiful. Well, is there anything I can help you out with? Any questions or anything you want to talk about or anything in particular?
I guess I was wondering, it might be a little solipsistic for you to talk about, but I am very interested by your foray into music and writing songs and poetry and music. And I guess I was kind of wondering if
Well, I've been doing that my whole life, so I don't really know. It's like something I've always been doing.
I like the format
You know
of
what I mean?
the Twitter Spaces and kind of you just talking about troubadours and wandering artists. Very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, no, it's like that, like, dude, like straight up, like what I wanted to be for, like, I wanted to be Conor Oberst, you know, when I was like 14. You know, I wanted to be Bob Dylan. Like I played guitar. I've been playing guitar my whole life. I've been playing guitar since I was a little kid, but I always had horrible stage fright, which is very funny if you think about it, because seeing what I am right
Yeah.
now. But like absolutely crippling, like hated like performing in front of people or whatever. So I'd like only play like by myself. Like I wouldn't even like play for girls, but like eventually like I would, you know. Um I don't know. I was always like I was like, oh, I have to like refine my craft until it's like really undeniably good or whatever. And like I don't know, I never did. I just kept writing instead because you don't have to perform writing; you just write it,
Right.
and then it's done. It's out there. But then you know when you write on Twitter, eventually it all is incorporated. You have no choice. Writing becomes like just like anything else. Like you're writing on stage in a way. So here I am now. And now I don't give a fuck. I'll play guitar and sing songs and shit. It feels great. Feel free of like what I used to care about was like appearances, I guess.
It feels great to experience it on our end as well. The spirit definitely comes through, and I actually had a similar experience with stage fright and performance and working on a craft and the things that you've brought to light about honing a craft and stuff has been like very resonant to my life lately.
That's
Yeah.
great. I mean, that's what I'm here to do, I guess. That's my service, I suppose.
Do you have any plans to? I feel like you mentioned something about recording music and making that into kind of a venture. Do you have any plans for that in the future?
Oh, I might. I kind of want to just because like I'm kind of writing about this same sort of subject. So like working on music is like helping me write this book too, because it's like about a musician, like as a character. So it's like I'm trying to do more of that sort of stuff. Like so I don't know. I write stuff that's like I write songs all the time. Like I'll have like a little thing in my head. So I have like a few. I'll probably record them eventually, but I would probably be more like a kind of like lo-fi slacker bedroom guitar music type thing than anything else. But I feel like that's actually like that's the type of music I like the most anyway. Like I really like I wish I could put out something as good as like Attica Basement. That's like what I would want to do. Some type of like like cassette recorded just minimalist type
For
thing.
sure.
American primitivism.
Slowcore, low vibes.
Yeah.
I love that
No,
stuff, like
same.
Duster.
Yeah. Have you ever
Yeah, I
listened
love
to
that stuff.
there's a small band called Good Night and Good Morning, and they have like 2 pieces out. But I've been listening to their one EP that's named after them lately on repeat. Very nice slowcore vibes.
Nice. I'll check it out. Yeah, I've got like that's like the kind of music I listen to, especially this time of year.
For sure.
But I had this idea, like I want to make I had this idea also of like I invented the term in my mind, and I think about it a lot. Is a funky tonk. Like I was like, how could we reinvent
Funky
honky tonk music?
Well, they're already doing that right now. You know, you were talking about genre mashing, and funk has like made a huge resurgence on TikTok
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah, I'm saying I want like a modern like honky tonk song. You know what I mean? Because I was really into honky tonk this summer. I listened to like so much fucking honky tonk when I was driving around, like old, like really old shit. Like I can't even remember the names of half the people because it's like I just was like downloading playlists. But I really like that. I really like country music. I think ultimately, like I can't rap. Like, you know, I'm not gonna do that. I could try. I could definitely try. I feel like I could write in that form, but it's not really like native to me or whatever.
Right.
So I feel like I'll end that like country music is like what my people always end up doing. Anyway,
It's very
like, every
similar. It's
great
very...
like punk band becomes a country band at the end. Like every like all these garage rock bands, they eventually put out like they become a country band for like a song at least. One of my favorite punk bands, Single Mothers, they put out a new album this year, and it's okay. It's not as good as their earlier stuff, but they have one song that's just called "Throw," and it's literally just like country song. And I was like, "This is great." Or it's like there's all these like punk bands, all the stuff that I like ends up becoming country music.
Lana Del Rey has also made a recent pivot to country music.
She's always been kind of country-ish, though.
Yeah, the spirit runs through it all, for sure. The same spirit
Yeah.
through all of it.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like ultimately, like Conor Oberst put out Digital Ash and Digital Urn, but as a country album like this year, which I wasn't expecting. But I always liked that album, and like I just love the sound of like American country music. I love all the instrumentation in it. There's also this guy, something Dawson. He's like a rapper kind of producer type guy, but he's doing tons of stuff with like banjos and like symphonic like country music type stuff, but with like more like trappy ad libs and shit like that. I don't know. It's wild stuff going on. But I think rap and country are like the two mainsprings of like American poetry right now.
Didn't Lil Ugly Mane also like take on a
Oh, yeah.
folksy thing recently?
Yeah. He put out a country song this year. He put out a country song, like a little like mournful country song, bluesy sort of song about him being in a alcohol detox recovery, which is a great
Classic.
subject for a country song.
It all comes back around.
Yeah, and he does like a lot of like he's honestly one of the most influential artists ever in my life. Like I don't know, I've always been inspired by whatever he did. He put out like 2 songs this week that are really good.
Oh, word.
I just feel like I vibe with him so much on things like very similar interests. So I just like the stuff he puts out. That's the kind of stuff I would be trying to put out ultimately. If I were making music, it would sound like that.
Nice. I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of resources for music production, but I'm a producer myself, and like I was saying, working on getting stuff out there and kind of overcoming the stage fright, but without being impatient about it. But
you kind of just have to build your own world. Like that's sort of another person I'm inspired by in a similar way. He's like a fellow Western Mass boy. You ever heard of DJ Lucas, like Dark World?
DJ Lucas, Dark World sounds familiar.
Like, Dark World was like the bigger collective or whatever, but he was like the main guy in it, who kind of like keeps it together. But he's like raps about like going to Dunkin' Donuts and stuff like that. He's like, you know, filming music videos in front of the Cumberland Farms, like out in like Amherst and Northampton. So it's like, yeah, no, he like just is like entirely real. He's like filming a music video in like his buddy's backyard where there's like a car that's like embedded in the dirt. You know what I mean? I'm just like, yeah, that's just what it is. Like he's just rapping about his own literal experience of things and just putting it out there. I don't know. I always like that when people are just like, yeah, I'm just being myself, not hyper considered.
For sure. But
Yeah, that's what I would say. Like, you really just like, I mean, with that sort of stuff, like you're looking to like collab because it's really hard to like be even recognized as a producer without someone rapping over it in a good way.
Yep.
Like even like Kanye was a great producer, but then he's like has to be a great producer, not just on beat tapes, but like for Jay-Z and for like Mos Def, etc. And then it's like then they'll finally recognize his talent, and it's like that with everyone. Like Clams Casino, right? Clams Casino used to just be producing shit on MySpace, and then he sends one to like Lil B, and then everyone starts like asking for beats from him, and now he's
Right.
like like kind of like he's like being interviewed on the BBC as by you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
So it's all just like you just got to constantly make things. That's all it's really about. You can't really, and you can't ever expect anything from it.
Yeah, 100%.
Because most of you mostly won't.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it has to be its own. It has to be like its own thing. Like I don't know. I keep doing what I do. Like I'm on this space. I'm writing this stuff. Even though like my rational faculty is like this isn't like a cost benefit analysis. This is probably not the most profitable use of my time, but it's kind of like I can't do anything else. Like I've always wanted to do this, and nothing could dissuade me, really. Not even myself. I can't even dissuade myself from doing what I do.
You can't help it. No, for real.
Yeah, you like can't stop.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and there's been a lot of patient making things and just trying to hone the craft, but I'm starting to get into the putting myself out there and stuff, and if you ever want to collab, like hit me up.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I just got this. I got a really nice Casio, like weighted keys,
Oh,
like very
nice.
nice. It's like should be like $800, like I think, like if you got it new. But I just paid shipping for it because so I got a lot of friends out
nice.
here on the internet,
For
and
sure.
he also sent me. I would thank him by name, but I forgot his name. He just like popped in. I think he made an alt just to tell me he was going to send me this stuff. And I got an MPK Mini, which I've been fucking around with for like 3 days, making the most schizophrenic shit on GarageBand because I don't have good software yet, so I don't have good sample packs. So I'm like trying to make shit out of like the GarageBand trombone sounds. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it doesn't quite hit the same.
it doesn't hit. It doesn't
you gotta
hit.
get
No, I
on
want to
Ableton.
I have a. Yeah. What do you use? Do you use Ableton?
Yeah, I'm in Ableton.
I'm like debating within myself whether or not I should go Fruity Loops or Ableton.
I mean, are you trying to do like digital production or are you trying to record? Seems like a little bit of digital.
Yeah, see, I don't know. See, I just want to like fuck around is the thing. That's
I
the
mean, I would
thing.
definitely recommend then the less expensive versions because like.
Well, I'm gonna pirate it no matter
True,
what.
True.
Number one.
Speaking, yeah.
So it's free either way.
I have never been able to achieve the torrents to make them work, but
really,
I'm just like stupid and 22 and like.
Oh yeah, you're a youngin', man. I've been torrenting since I was 12.
I literally have been trying to figure it out since I was 12 and like have just not.
Oh, that's rough. I guess I got tutored by like my older cousins who were like really into piracy. So I was lucky in that way.
You were speaking on it earlier.
That was like where I learned how to research anything. That's how I learned how to learn, was learning how to pirate things.
Well, I recently
like mod
learned
stuff.
about Z Library and have downloaded so many books from it. But
oh, dude, LibGen, Sci-Hub.
LibGen and Sci-Hub.
You know that they're run by Stalinists too. That's the most beautiful part.
Well, Z Library just got shut down, so I'm like trying to figure out the next part.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Well, do you know LibGen?
No.
LibGen, LibGen is like where you would find a lot of like pointers to things like Z Library. It's like basically a torrent tracker for books.
Word.
But it's not torrents because book files are so small.
Right.
You don't need to torrent them. But LibGen has like a lot of good stuff, like tons of stuff on it. And there's also like Archive has a lot of the older stuff. You can catch me on archive.org reading 19th century books that are out of print. Scans of old shit. That's what I like doing.
Nice. Thank you, Logo. Once again coming through with helpful hints.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. All you need is
LibGen.
LibGen and Sci-Hub.
LibGen and Sci-Hub.
Yeah, Sci-Hub is how you get past academic paywalls.
That's PSY.
So if you want to read stuff on like JSTOR, SCI-Hub.
I'm about to lose access to JSTOR, so
yeah, this is how you get around JSTOR and a bunch of other stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Well, good luck out there, and cool. Send me some music or whatever. I can use. So if you don't mind, I can use it in a show or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I had people sending me music for a while. I'm just really bad at accrediting things because by the time I finally put shit together, I forget where I got it from, and then the DMs are gone. And
well, we're all like intellectual property communists, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel anyway.
Word.
But
well, thanks for talking to me. It's great. And,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Peace
take
out,
care.
man. All right, I'm gonna do 15 more minutes. 3 o'clock. I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna add Green USB. I haven't talked to you in a while. How's the music biz? I feel like I got a lot of people in the music biz following me. I feel like I don't know. I guess everyone makes music in America. We're all musical, more so than other countries. I think everyone makes music.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, dude? How's the biz?
Business is booming. I don't know. It's funny.
How do you feel about the new Drake album?
When I listened to it front to back, honestly, I wasn't really like blown away by it. There's like a couple of songs that have really, really, really good beats.
Yeah.
Like particularly the before last track, like the 9 p.m. and whatever. The drums on that song are really good. And there's also like Hours in Silence, I think. Like, what's that what it's called? Yeah, Hours in Silence has like a beautiful pad like throughout the beat. It's so good. And it's weird because like all the producers on that song in particular are like people who have like no credits whatsoever, and they're like 17, 18, and all of a sudden they're on this Drake album. I'm always I don't mean to be suspicious when things like that happen, but yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I thought it was better than normal because it's like not as bad as his latest shit, but it's not as good as he once was.
Yeah.
But it's like a step not backwards.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Nevermind was like, to me, I think I understood like the vision, and I honestly think that like he would have been better off if he would have just gone like proper like Chicago house, Detroit techno producers on it than just like random influencer types making his shit, or like Carnage, who's trying to rebrand himself as like a
he should have gone full like bitch ass Darius.
Yeah, of course, or like Lil Louis or whatever. I mean, I don't know if Lil Louis is still around, but I was gonna say I'm actually, my friends and I were actually scheming our American Thanksgiving this weekend, because I mean I'm all the way here in Montreal, and like our Canadian Thanksgiving was like a month ago or so, but we still, my friends and I, we do both just as like tradition, just because it's like fun to make food and then like eat and watch Thanksgiving movies and shit and like hang out. But yeah, also the previous person that was on mentioned Z Library that was down, but it's back up.
It's back up, yeah.
It's been back up as z-lib.is, but yeah. And also you were trying to find the name of that like that guy that makes like music with, it's John Dawson.
John Dawson, that's it.
Yeah,
You're right.
Dude, Pirate Radio is like an insane track.
Dude, Pirate Radio is I keep listening to it. I was like, this is crazy.
It's so nuts. But yeah, no.
I'm just like, wow. Like it's like I can see how it happens though. You know what I mean? Like I can see how like because he's a little bit younger than me.
I mean he's like I think
20.
he's like either my age or like younger. I mean I'm 26, but I think he's like 25 or something like that.
I think it's like this is like the effect of like Bon Iver on rap music.
Yeah,
it's
Bon Iver,
insane. Or whatever. Yeah, I don't remember how to say it anymore.
But yeah, Bon Iver.
Going back to like his collab with Kanye, like basically like that's like the good out of the Poptimism era of Pitchfork was that you now have like these like like people are just listening like who know like I don't know, we're gonna see these crazy collab like mashups of things. Like this kid is if I remember correctly, John Dawson. He's like half Mexican from like South Texas, and he's making like Bon Iver music. It's fucking wild.
Yeah, he grew up in Tijuana, Mexico. Very cool. But yeah, yo, speaking of Kanye, I actually wanted to get your because I feel like not really many people are like kind of like taking like a look on this, but it's like, dude, him hanging out with fucking Milo and like Nick Fuentes, I don't know, man. I'm getting the worst vibes out of this. Like, possible.
I think that he gets manipulated by other people. Like, obviously, so think about this in the first case, right? So he had that personal trainer manipulating him or whatever, but he doesn't know like that like these other people, right? Like Candace Owens is manipulating him. Milo's like these people also have like they just want to use him, for their own things, and he'll come around to that eventually, I think. But I don't know.
I hope so, because I just like I can't.
I don't know. He's reaching out to people like that, so I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, when you're sick of them, I'll be waiting, pal. I'm here. For you.
Yeah, I know exactly. When he decides to come back to Montreal, I'll be waiting.
yeah.
But yeah, no. I just hate the fact that like all the discourse that like I've seen around it is also just kind of, man, I don't know how to describe this, but I feel like for me personally, like in the last like couple months, I feel like I've been feeling this weird shift back to kind of 2016 discourse vibes, if that makes sense. Dude,
I think it's fake.
Yeah,
I see it happening like in a sort of in appearance, but I think it's all fake. I don't think it's real. It doesn't feel like 2016.
I know it's fake, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just, for example, like just last weekend, I went bowling with like my friends, and we went to the bowling alley, and it's like Saturday night, it's packed, and my friends, we got like 3 lanes because it was like a bunch of us, and who is there with his family on the lane right next to us? Motherfucking Godsod with his like wife and kids and shit. And it was like my friend who pointed out. I'm like, oh my god, dude,
that's
like
funny.
this is some 2016 shit right here. I'm about to pull up to him and tell him my pronouns, and his wife's head's gonna explode.
Yeah.
But it's just weird because it's like, you're seeing Milo, you're seeing Nick, you're seeing like, just me seeing God like in the flesh, and like it's just to me it's like, man, like, are we fucking back to 2016? Because that was like the worst time.
I mean, it's like the thing is they're trying to will it into existence again because it's like it's not there. That's the thing. This is like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, we're doing it again. We're running it back for 2024, and it's like, no, you're not.
Trump's gonna win again.
Yeah, nope, not gonna happen.
Yeah,
I'm
not
already
gonna
calling.
happen.
I'm calling it. I know what it is.
No,
this is
of course not.
Pump
Of course
fake.
not.
It's fake. I don't know. It is what it is. But
I think
their careers ride on them being like, no, it's back. The energy's back. The vibes are back. But it's not. It's just fundamentally
I hate that
not.
so much.
It's just not. I
mean,
don't know.
I think your
people are lying
analysis
to themselves.
I think your analysis, or like your view that it's going to be like Newsom versus DeSantis, I think is like the real. Like, I think that's probably what's going to look like for like next year or the
this is
year
the
after.
long-term game plan, right? Is that they allow Trump to do all this shit. He doesn't even get the nomination, even through some fuckery or whatever. And you have all of these like people being like, it's like Bernie 2016. This is literally like the people who are like Bernie 2020. You know what I mean? That's like the Trump vibe right now is like Bernie 2020, because it's so clear that it's like, okay, well, we already know that it's fucking rigged and he's not going to do anything anyway. So it's like, okay, so then when it does get rigged, then he doesn't get the nomination or whatever. You're going to have like protest people being like, okay, well, we're just not going to vote, or we're going to vote for a third party or whatever. And all that, then that's going to make all of like the DeSantis people who are like, no, you're not even like serious enough about this. Like, you're not serious enough about the actual, the social blah, blah, blah. So it's like, yeah, the MAGA people are just like crazy or whatever. So it's like, they're all just like diving purposefully into like this grave that has been dug for them. They're doing it like quite like willingly. You know what I mean? Like they don't see it that way, but that's how I see it. Like they're just burying themselves. They're going down with the ship, but like I don't fucking know why. It's like it just seems stupid.
Is it just me, or does it feel like especially when you like kind of when you kind of see like the backgrounds of both both Newsom and DeSantis? It to me kind of feels like it's like 2024 is just going to be like it's just like a battle of the technocrats. It's just like
it's literally like the McCain-Obama election, you know what I mean?
Yes,
or like the Romney-Obama election,
exactly,
where it's like, does it actually even matter? Like, no, it doesn't.
No,
It literally couldn't matter at all. It's so
just weird.
same.
it's just weird though, because I feel like I think for what's being propped up for 2024 is that it's that like the sort of regular people are kind of just going to be completely pushed out, and it's just going to be like whoever's more entrenched in the discourse is going to kind of like influence the matter on
That
things.
actually isn't what happens though, because we saw that in the midterms, right? Because it's like the people who are more entrenched, like what all it is just this manipulation, and so they need to get more normal people invested in politics. But most normal people are actually more burnt out on it than they were. They were burnt out on it, which is why Trump was interesting. But now they're burnt out again. Trump isn't going to change that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're burnt out on that already.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but I just feel like the sort of positions in like the platforms that like both Newsom and DeSantis are like running on, it's like to the average, like I'm at least like from the way I see it, from my standpoint, it's like for the average person, it's like why the fuck would they care about like the things that they like the things
they
that
have
like
to buy into the narrative building of one of the parties, right? So it's like well, like we're voting for the Republicans because they're the Republicans, or I'm voting for the Democrats because they're not the Republicans. I'm voting for the Republicans because they're not the Democrats. It's just like this notion that the issue is like one of the parties and not the like fucking superstructure here.
Yeah. I don't know it's like who's going to be, who's going to lead the greenwashing, like,
Yeah, like, oh man, it's like it's just two sides of the same coin. It's like it's like the left foot and the right foot, and they walk forward to the same goal. And so it's like, yeah, what if we got DeSantis? It's like, okay, so then we would get more tax incentives for fucking corporations to extract rent internally, like, you know what I mean, like what is going to change?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting too, because I feel like I think most people forgot that I guess like what got Trump into power. I mean, at least like a part of what got him into power is just like his sheer
novelty.
Novelty and meme power. I feel because I feel like that's like
where
never
the
gone
meme power
away.
came from, though, is the fact that it was like a completely novel occurrence that no one was taking seriously. You know what I mean? But it was like, oh wow, this is like too absurd to take seriously. But he put on a really fucking good show at the time, and no one knew that he was like talking complete bullshit. Everyone was like, oh, he's obviously talking complete bullshit, but he was also stating the truth about a lot of things. And people were like, wow, there's more truth than I've heard. Like, yeah, sure, he's a bullshitter, but he's honest about being a bullshitter. So, you know what I mean? That's more honesty than we're seeing from anyone else.
Yeah.
But now he's just, I was saying he's like second term Obama, where the narrative is exactly the same now, where he's like, oh, the mean, nasty Democrats aren't letting me do what I need to do. Like the mean, nasty Democrats.
Wasn't that like a Dave Chappelle bit on like SNL where he's like, yeah, well, like the guy actually said what he thought. Like,
yeah,
no one believed him.
No, it's funny because it's like Dave Chappelle is like trotted out to like tell us what the absolute like limit of opinion can be. Like Dave Chappelle
which is a very, very interesting development, but honestly unsurprising. Like,
yeah, like him and Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart does the same fucking thing now. Like they're institutions now. Like they're very important to like the narrative processing of things, because they're like they have like, I think they've probably done studies to like who thinks these people have, because like I don't know, I talked to my dad and he like takes Dave Chappelle, like he's watched Chappelle for forever, he's a huge Chappelle fan, so it's like if Dave Chappelle says something, then it's like, oh yeah, this is like the voice of like moderation and reason and like understanding. You know what I mean? And it's like that with Jon Stewart too. There's like a few people who have that sort of reputation, and they are they're treated as such by everyone. Like Kanye was sort of up there too. Kanye, he was allowed to say George Bush doesn't care about black people, etc. Like Kanye was like that. So that's why these people they have to contain the discourse around Kanye. If you've noticed, there have been viral clips of Dave Chappelle and Jon Stewart both explaining the Kanye situation to everyone as like the definitive source of authority on the situation.
Yeah, you like we wouldn't want to get it from like we wouldn't want to get that kind of information from like the source himself.
No.
We'd have to present these things from our own like interpretations and whatnot. Like,
well, it's like the thing is that like Kanye doesn't explain himself in the way that they do. Like Kanye is not a rhetorician. Kanye speaks in metaphors. You know what I mean? Kanye only speaks in metaphors. He speaks in metaphors and anecdotes and analogies.
Yeah.
So those aren't explained to you. Those you put together in your mind when they're said to you. You follow it or you don't, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, but that's not how Dave Chappelle and Jon Stewart work. Their whole thing is actually making explicit what is like in an analogy. Like that's all they do. Like that's
Yeah,
where
it's
their
like
comedy comes from.
it's kind of like flattening out like
Yeah,
the
no, it's like
analogy
it's a
really.
deflating. They're deflators. Like they pop the bubble on a thing or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're like
Here's
behind
what
this.
here's what he actually meant.
Yeah. Here it is. Like it looks like all puffed up, but actually it's just this. You know what I mean? And that's what they do. That's their role in the discourse.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Anyways, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Word.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, man.
My friends and I will be cooking up something good this weekend. And
Beautiful.
yeah. Oh, and of course, congratulations on your daughter. Or your
well, she's not out yet, but she's kicking.
Upcoming.
Yeah.
Soon. Coming
Thanks,
soon.
man. All right, I'm gonna move on to. I'm probably do. Let me see. I feel like I've talked to you guys a bunch. I'll add you both at the same time. We'll do like 5 minutes or something if you got something really quick, because I want to be done. I'm gonna go. Got some stuff to do. Punished. Biggin V. Everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
I don't celebrate it because I'm not an American.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry you don't understand. You don't understand our beautiful
American
traditions.
culture is beautiful, even though the American Anglos like control us basically.
Logo.
Yeah, what's up?
You got to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's the Thanksgiving.
Oh, is that a good Thanksgiving movie?
That's the Thanksgiving movie.
Okay, I saw that on the Thanksgiving movie list that I Googled earlier in this.
It's Steve Martin and John Candy trying to go home for Thanksgiving, and John Candy.
Oh, that sounds good.
He's a big, nasty, fat guy, and then at the end, it turns out that they all have dinner together.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
By the way, just have you guys seen all the shit with the Colorado gay club shooting? Like the guy turns out to be trans, and he's been like bullied on.
He was on Encyclopedia Dramatica.
Yeah.
Like I did a thread on this earlier today. I can wrap it up.
So those fucking. So this is like
the kind of so. Well, the thing is that our whole society is like that.
Yeah,
like it's not even being directed.
It's terrifying part. It's like
distributed.
It's like that's like the terrifying part. It's like indistinguishable from normal social reality, right?
It's literally distributed. Like that's what the internet is. Like we've distributed this executive authority to like everyone. Like we've distributed this like for authority of force or whatever to everyone. So this is what happens. What's funny to me is that people are like drawing a clear, like trying to like delineate, like, oh, this guy is, he's not like authentically they them or something. It's a troll and like blah blah blah. It's like, okay, the person who would do that as a troll is effectively the same as the person who would do it not as a troll. Like they're both a troll to me.
And isn't the whole thing like what gives you the authority to say that? Like,
well,
how do
there
you
is
get
no authority
say?
at all. Like, it's just force, right? So they're trying to force like this discourse, like, oh no, this person is not with us. They're actually a fascist or whatever. We're not on the same team. They were never on the same team,
because it's
or whatever.
It's like the way the story develops is like perfect. Because initially you have like the left who can be like outraged and whatever, and then you have like the big reveal where it's like the other side. So it creates political tension.
No, that's why it's a part of the discourse, is because it's like a whole little like people were like, oh look, it's not, oh look, you thought it was one of our shooters, but it was one of your shooters. It's literally like Chicago gangland warfare over the discourse. And I was watching this watching the Channel 5 thing about O Block, right? Like about like Chief Keef's neighborhood and things, and like how the coverage of the gang war there like created more violence for it, because like now people had like, they were like characters and like a narrative, so they had to like fulfill their character arcs or whatever. But that's literally why someone would shoot up a place in the first place, right? Is that they're like, I'm like this character and like I'm doing this thing and now I'm going to be the main character today.
God. So, like, for gang warfare, they've been doing this for, like, I have the idea that a lot of, like, experiments that, like, the CIA and all these spooks do is, like, it's like, first tested out in the black population, then it's, like, released onto the rest of the population.
Yeah, no, that's actually what happens.
So the black family has already, like, been destroyed decades ago, and now they're also going after the non-black family, right?
Well, yeah, it's just, the thing is, it's just because they were like the most tenuous of this like class of like unproperty people, because they didn't have any property in the first place.
Cares about them. So if they get like fucked by the CIA, like nobody gives a shit because they're black anyways.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at like, and they're like, you will live in the pods, you will eat the bugs or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's like Rockefeller's like housing developments in like the middle of the 20th century, like in New York, when they're building these like huge.
And then like the right winger will say, no, that was actually based. We like I recently saw a fucking tweet. There was a guy like this like fascist right wing type, and he was like defending the Medici family because
Of
these were
course.
bankers. These bankers, they really cared about the people.
They don't care about the
had the
people
interest
because
of
the
the
people
people
don't
in mind.
matter. They care about the blood, the noble bloodlines. You see, only the
Yes.
bloodlines of nobility. I was thinking about how eugenics is literally just like what is the conception of eugenics? It's literally just like the oldest like feudal philosophy, which is the defense of noble bloodlines
It's the cult of the
against
blood, Daniel.
panmixia, and
It's the
that's
cult of the
literally
blood. That's actually what they called the Nazis, like right after World War II. If you read like watch American propaganda or like information reels, I guess, they talk about the Nazis and they say, oh, the problem with these guys, they believe in the cult of the blood, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we have that here too. So it is what it is. Those people are dumb though. This is like Wyndham Lewis goes into this a lot, but they all get that from Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche is their fucking guy. Obviously, if they've only read anything, it's going to be Nietzsche.
Like I love how liberals like defend Nietzsche and will like continue to say, "Oh, I was actually not really a fascist."
Nietzsche was a liberal like me.
Yeah.
No, Nietzsche was an anarchist like me.
I went to there's this castle in Germany that used to be the headquarters of the SS. And what they were like, I was like doing a tour there, and what they kept explaining to you was the way these SS guys saw themselves is literally like the embodiment of the Nietzschean Übermensch. Like they were like God, coming to Eastern Europe to crush these, lowly slaves who,
Yes, the Northmen.
If you have slaves, why bother to teach them to read, as Nietzsche said? Why don't we just massacre all of them?
Yeah.
Because we're Übermenschen. And people don't see it. People fucking will see Nietzsche quotes like "the blonde beast must conquer the world," and they will literally just like obfuscate, like say, that's not actually what he meant. He actually meant that he's actually like a liberal like me.
Yeah. Well, it's like, well, maybe that is what he meant because liberals like you are just following in the same project. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the best part.
But what did he mean by blonde? Exactly.
Well, what's funny is that he's like Nietzsche was a huge Anglophile. Is the other thing that people don't realize.
Hitler too. Hitler as well. He loved England. He was sad when he had to bomb England, right?
Yeah, because England is the defenders of the ancient regime, right? They're the great defenders of noble bloodlines.
This is what Brunswick Pervert recently said something about. Like, if anybody attacks like what he called Anglo-individualism or something, Anglo-liberalism, he says that attack is suspicious. That attack is made by someone who is not racially pure. That's literally his words.
Yeah.
We must defend the Anglo Empire to save the white race.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the problem is that the British, right? The problem really is that they got soft. They got too soft in their imperialism. We just need to bring it back.
Yeah, this is what Bob literally says. We need to go back to like the 19th century and Malthus and all that shit. That's where it's really at.
Yeah, but it's presented as if it's going back to the Bronze Age, but it's truly about 19th century liberal imperialism. It's very funny.
Bronze Age mindset, more like Victorian mindset.
Yeah, it's literally Victorian mindset. Yeah, and it's very homoerotic in the same way of like Victorian masculinity, where it's like, we're on a boat full of burly men.
Yeah, I mean, he had the Bronze Age Pervert. I mean, his old Twitter account, his profile picture was a naked dude.
Yeah, no, I know that.
You look at like Nazism, like they had this thing called the cult of the naked or something, where they like were like fawning over naked guys.
Yeah, no, and what's funny is like there's those memes where it's like the authoritarian right guy and then like the libertarian left girl, and they're like, oh, we both love astrology and our ancestor magic, and we don't like Christianity. Wow.
I mean, hippie ideology is like it's like very close to Evola, basically.
It comes from that. That's where you get Evola books in America.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's funny. I mean, you have Prince Charles, who's a Guignonian traditionalist. So King Charles, I believe. Now, right? He's the king.
I gotta run into Guignon hosting.
But I'm gonna end this here, guys, because I'm losing steam. But
bye-bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Good night.